Hello, peoples out there. Welcome to another episode of Get Geek News. Thanks for joining us again today. And we're getting into the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker episode of Get Geek News. But first, we just want to spread the word, guys. Please, if you like this podcast and if you enjoy the content that we're putting out, rate and share us on iTunes. We want to share our voices and our insights with a lot more people, if possible. So if you enjoy it, please rate and share us on iTunes. But anyway, once again, we're getting into the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker review. This will be a spoiler-free impressions to start off and a full spoiler review to finish off the podcast. So just wanted to warn you guys multiple times before we get started. Once again, you guys know me. I am Jose, and I am joined...
Wolfie.
Metatron, greetings.
Yeah, this is Walt.
Elias, what's poppin', Jimbo?
And let's get right into it. First, I'll start off. I guess we'll start off with spoiler-free impressions. And since I'm opening things up, I'll start off with my spoiler-free review of the movie. I actually liked the movie, but it was just okay for me. It wasn't great. I thought a lot of it didn't work in the overall context of the trilogy. So, I mean, what it did right for me was it hit some fairly good kind of Star Wars nostalgia notes, which you could say is fan service, but I enjoyed the movie overall. I liked some of the conflict and the continued sort of a close relationship between Kylo and Rey. I thought that they closed that in a good way, except for one thing that I'll talk about later. I thought Palpatine was pretty cool. I won't say what his role was, obviously, but I thought that he was handled well, the way that he was brought back into the Star Wars universe. I thought it was handled well. I thought it was resolved, again, mostly well, except for a couple of problems that I had with that. I like, how they brought the team back together for this one, which is something that's true. Like, if you wanted to connect with these characters as a family, which is what Star Wars has kind of always been about too. It's about discovering your family out there in the universe, because a lot of the characters are stragglers. They're kind of, they're orphans, or like they come from nowhere, or whatever you want to call it. And they didn't really have the main characters of this trilogy together enough, in my opinion. That's something that I think John Boyega said was the case, that he had a gripe with. And I think that is kind of true, and they brought them all together a little bit more in this movie, which was cool. So they got to interplay off of each other a little more. Again, not all the beats were perfect, and we'll talk about that later. But I think you're sensing a theme here. Like, overall, I liked what they did for the most part with the movie, except for what I'll name as my biggest major gripe, but it's spoiler territory. And it's not even a plot detail. It's something we'll discuss. I liked overall what they did, but I think that overall they made mostly good choices in service of these storylines that they advanced and continued from the last couple of movies, and made a couple of rough choices. So there were some really great elements. The action set pieces were pretty cool. I mean, I think it was. It's getting a little hard to focus here. If you guys could see what's going on, it's.
We're trying to decide who's going to go after Jose. And
there's
all pointing fingers at each other.
And but they're really having extra fun with it. So I'm like, am I supposed to start pointing people? No.
Our apologies.
Anyways. So most of the details were I think relatively well done. The characters to focus on, I think, was solid. But yeah, there were a few choices out of these arcs that either didn't make sense in the arc, didn't make sense in the arc in this movie, didn't make sense in the arc in the overall trilogy, or just were, to me, poor choices compared to what they could have done instead. So I give it, I guess, if I were to rate it out of anything, I would say it would be about a 7 out of 10. Maybe a 6 out of 10 after some thought, but 7 out of 10 for now. Having seen it 1.5 times.
Okay.
Who wants to talk about it next? You guys were
Go for it,
definitely. You
Wolfie.
must have worked that out by now, right?
So
I
we're
think
going.
we worked it out. I mean, we're pointing at each other. I thought I was going next, but then I saw these fingers flying around.
No. You are
It
going
looked like
next.
baseball signs.
I think we're going from one extreme to the next. So,
All right, so yeah, I don't know.
I was
if
trying to
I'm
steal
I don't-
signals.
I don't know if I'm the person that should be following
You
Jose's
actually very well
review.
probably should be if you
I
think
think
about
it's
it.
perfect
Really?
I think
because
it's perfect.
Because I
it
think
brings
that I'm
balance
very-
to the force.
Maybe I fall on the dark side of this and stuff like that, but
No.
I feel like I did not thoroughly enjoy the movie. I'm not gonna say that the movie isn't enjoyable on its own, but if you're a Star Wars fan, if you don't watch Star Wars or you don't like if you don't get completely like
Immersed.
in Star Wars lore, then I think that you can go watch the movie and really enjoy it beginning to end. But if you have backstory, if you have history with Star Wars, if you've seen all the films and you have read some of the books, if you're a fan of Star Wars and follow some of the plot lines and character development schemes and stuff like that, I feel like this movie doesn't do any of it justice. And my biggest issues were with primarily with character development. I felt like there wasn't really strong character development in this film, and it was deliberate, because there were characters that were introduced that in my opinion, didn't need to be introduced, and characters that were already part of the saga that were just sidelined for no reason, just for certain plot devices, and for me, it would be one thing if you're gonna make a sacrifice for a plot device that's going to move the story forward in a satisfying way, but it didn't do that. For me, I felt like the sacrifices that they made did not pay off, and there's a whole lot more that I want to say about why I didn't enjoy the movie as much as I wish I had. But you're gonna have to stick around for the spoiler review for that, and I will say that like my review, like right now, I would say it's probably a 3 out of 10 for me personally. And again, if you stick around and you listen to what I have to say, hopefully not hopefully, but maybe you can see my point of view. But I will say that like when I left the theater last night, I was leaving with a 1 out of 10. So,
Is there any, because you said you didn't thoroughly enjoy the movie, so I'm just curious, is there any character or thread, again, without spoiling too much, that you did kind of enjoy? Anything that worked well, maybe, like I said, a character or an idea in the movie?
I would say that the character that worked the best for me, which I still don't think that it worked great, was Kylo Ren's character, Adam Driver's character, because he plays Kylo Ren / Ben Solo.
He actually had an arc in the film.
He had an
He's
actual
had an
arc.
in 3 movies.
He's the only one that
But
really...
he's the only one that had like a
has.
satisfactory arc, but like I said, satisfactory.
Right.
I would say that like I feel like I'm not the writer, I'm not the creative behind the film, and I feel like I can create just with like what they had in the film. I can have a better storyline for Kylo Ren, and that's my thing. For me, my benchmark is if I feel like I can't, like when I come out of a movie, I don't want to say, well, this is what would have made the movie better. If I have to say that, in my opinion, then it just wasn't a good movie because I'm a nobody. I shouldn't be the one deciding what would have made the movie better, in detail. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, see, that was perfect to go balance the force. What about you, Eli? What'd you think?
This is not, you're going to the wrong person if you want balance.
Yeah. 2 out of 10.
Okay.
Basically the same as Wolfie here. I felt that the storyline, there were some parts that were given too much emphasis that were irrelevant to the storyline, and it had nothing to do with it whatsoever or the main plot, the main antagonist. So I felt that was unnecessary. The characters, the actors did pretty good acting, at least what I could say. I felt it was just mainly the storyline. There isn't much to it. The storyline rushed, jumbled around,
Yeah, it did.
and yeah, most of the scene there were a lot of references to movies and shows even before Rise of Skywalker, which some of them I were even a bit surprised at, but otherwise the storyline wasn't too great.
What's your rating on the film? Oh, you did say it, right?
Yeah, 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Well,
Actually, 1.5 out of 10.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
So the worst movie.
Force
ever.
pound.
Is it your least favorite Star Wars movie ever?
Absolutely.
Yes.
My
Last
bad.
Jedi was up there.
Really? Oh, wow.
Not that up there. It's like top 5.
Okay.
Force Awakens was like top 7, and the rest were like all the way up there. The rest were awesome. The
I mean,
new
look,
trilogy,
the Phantom Menace at least had that lightsaber duel at the end. At least it had
Yeah.
it then.
That's right. Who
Come
was
on,
fighting?
bro.
Who was fighting there?
Obi-Wan.
And who else? What's the other guy's name in Phantom Menace?
I only remember half of it. What's
Oh gosh!
Darth?
Seriously?
Darth.
Wow! Coming from the dead man, in the Sarlacc pit.
He's not dead. Go on. Anyway, so we got 2 out of 10. Now we got Metatron, right? What's up?
Yeah, so
You have the freshest mind because you literally just saw the film.
I did. I actually don't agree that Palpatine was handled well.
Okay.
I think that, again, this is spoiler territory, so I won't go into it in depth, but I feel like there were parts about his role in this movie that I liked. Don't get me wrong. But just the way that he was introduced and how he was handled, I felt could have been handled much better. I also had some problems with the overarching story. I felt like I honestly I went into this movie really I was hyped for it.
You were optimistic.
So optimistic. And
I was hella hyped myself.
I tried enjoying it. I really tried, but I couldn't bring myself to enjoy it on the level that I watched Revenge of the Sith yesterday night, and I still get so much feels from that movie.
For reals.
I got little to none of that in this movie. It was on a level disappointing for me, and I don't want to think of a Star Wars movie like that, but that's how I feel like I've been left.
And that's my issue, that like it's leaving people like you and I with this feeling on the final movie. It'd be one thing if this was number 8 and then they can like kind of fix it in number 9, but no, this is, I don't know.
And that's the other thing. I don't quite see how this is the definitive end for the Skywalker saga. Because in a sense, they technically leave it open.
They left it wide open.
Yeah, they did.
Wide open.
So what's your rating?
I originally said 7 out of 10, but I'm
I swayed you to the dark
I think
side.
it's dropping.
the trend here is that the ratings keep dropping. And going along with that trend, I sadly have to give it a 6.5. I'm not going to go
even that big of a drop.
but yeah.
It's a point.
Would you
Passing grade.
Would you consider
It's a passing grade.
any of
65.
the other movies worse than this? Is there, where would you put this ranking with the other movies that we've seen?
My least favorite movie, despite some of the action scenes, was Attack of the Clones.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, but this is even below that.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Interesting.
real. No, you know what? Actually, no.
Attack of the Clones
It
was
doesn't-
worse
it
than
doesn't go-
Phantom Menace to you?
No,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
loved that Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Same
But
here.
you know what?
I mean,
I'm
I liked
sorry.
it. I liked it, but you know, I mean,
For me-
maybe I love it now after watching Rise of
For
Skywalker.
me, there was nothing memorable about Attack of the Clones. To be honest, you know, with
Really?
Phantom Menace, and again, I have a little bias toward that movie, but there were some great scenes in Phantom Menace. I'm talking about in terms of the pod race, in terms of that final epic battle. the reveal of Duel of the Fates. I mean, those things are classics in the.
That's
Star Wars.
true, but I think that like Little Annie's, like
Listen, the
his
movie's
act-
not
the
the movie is not perfect by any means. But
All right. Anyway, we're
not
not
veering
reviewing.
off.
Yeah,
here. Yes,
we
I'm
are
sorry.
kind of getting a little too.
Yeah.
We can do a separate like episode reviewing the
Yeah.
entire saga.
We should do that.
We should do that.
Yeah.
That was my idea.
All right.
But either
Eli
way,
taking the credit. You're the man.
But either way, there's only one. It's a tie. This movie is for me is honestly tying with Solo, and Solo for me was even below Attack of the Clones.
I like Solo.
For me there were problems with that movie though. Like it wasn't the best, but I think we should just get into the spoiler territory.
Anybody ever hear of how I fell asleep during Solo?
Well, oh god.
Yeah.
And Rise of Skywalker, actually.
That says something.
Both of them. I had to watch it a second time just for me to actually stay up and not get bored. Just to actually enjoy it.
All right. I'm gonna finish up this round of non-spoiler reviews. I'm gonna start this with a quote. And this quote came from Rian Johnson about a week and a half ago and stuff. And his quote was, and there's going to be some paraphrasing in there because he missed out on some words, but here's the quote. He says, and I quote, "I think approaching any creative process with making fandoms happy would be a mistake that would lead to probably the exact opposite result." As being the oldest person here in the group, I was there on May 25th, 1977, in the movie theater watching the original Star Wars movie. I have since watched every single movie in the thing. I've taken my kids. I've gone with my brother. When Last Jedi came out, it was 40 years of Star Wars. My parents took me to the original Star Wars. I took my parents to go see Last Jedi. There were times where you and I, Jose, at night, we would literally, before going to bed, and remember, Mom used to hate us doing this, right?
Yep.
We would recite every single line from Empire Strikes Back,
That sounds
from
awesome.
Star Wars, word for word. We went through each scene. We did all of that stuff
In character.
in character.
That sounds
Star
awesome.
Wars is as you can see is a big part of my childhood. It's a big part of my kids' childhood. It's a big part of my family's childhood. To see the Skywalker saga end in this fashion was beyond disappointing. To me, this set of movies, the sequel trilogy, had no cohesion whatsoever. You went from Force Awakens, then you had Last Jedi, which came out, which tried to do some different things to it, and then you had this movie, which was a direct insult to The Last Jedi. This movie felt like three movies to me. It felt like an ending, not the best ending. It felt like a big F you to Last Jedi, including the press junkets where you had John Boyega and J.J. Abrams publicly saying negative things about The Last Jedi, right? And to me, the reason that they were doing that is that they were trying to get the trolls that did not like that movie on board with this movie. And to me, that's the only. I can't think of
it's gotta
any
be.
other reason, right? And the third movie that this thing tried, it was three things. It was the ending, getting the trolls back online, and this was every single fanboy theory that ever populated the internet trying to put it into a movie. That's what this movie felt to me. The Palpatine thing made no sense whatsoever. Rey, again, is another character that had no story arc whatsoever. There was nothing to her. Kylo, I would say, like Wolfie said, is the one that had the biggest arc, not only in this movie, but within the trilogy itself. And he's not the star, or at least he's not proclaimed to be the star. because this movie wants to push the notion that Rey is the one that saves us all. I think you can. And listen. Not only that, I've seen this movie 4 times now. Okay, I saw it Friday morning. I saw it Friday night. I saw it Saturday morning. I saw it Saturday afternoon, back to back to back. I will say this: on the 3rd viewing, I finally softened a little bit because that first act is a complete and utter mess. They are jumping from place to place. The only time I had any enjoyment in this movie is when they slowed it down and they started to get into the characters. But then the 3rd act came and just blew it out of the water. I was completely disappointed with this movie. To me, I'm not going to be as harsh as Eli. I don't remember your score. You were 1. I'm not going to be that harsh.
I thought it was a 1 yesterday and a 3
It was
today.
a 1 yesterday and a 3 today, so I guess
said a
it's
1.5.
I'm gonna go 4 out of 10, and I'm being generous, and I'm giving that score only because on the 3rd viewing I started to appreciate some of it a little bit. But that first viewing, I was so irate coming out of that movie theater and I think the reason is that first act was so disjointed that I could not get back into the movie after that, and it took me 3 viewings to finally settle in and say, you know what, the second act, there's some merit to it. I'm so disappointed that this is the end. And like both of you guys said here, it's one thing to say that this is a movie that exists within the trilogy. You can go and retcon stuff. You can go on back and say, okay, we're going to fix this and that. This is the ending of the Skywalker saga. This is how it ends. I'm sorry. I can't get behind this movie at all. I really did not like this movie.
I mean, no lie, it did have its moments. Like there were parts that I really did truly.
There were.
There were.
You know, there was a scene with Kylo Ren.
Wait.
You know,
Let's save for spoiler territory.
I'm not spoiling it.
I'm going to say we should just jump into it.
No, but I'm not spoiling. But I will say this: this movie is a set of moments. There are some of them that are enjoyable, but they do not blend into the bigger story. It's like, okay, here's a moment, let's go to the next. Here's a moment, let's go to the next. Here's a moment, let's go to the next. That's what this entire movie is. And each moment, you can pick it out and say, there is a fan theory that goes with this. And here's another moment. There's another fan theory that goes with this.
And the funny thing is that I'm pretty sure every prediction that we made, some of the predictions that we made during one of our podcasts, most of them were true. No lie, we predicted it.
Because they took fan theories and threw it into a movie. And that's why I had to start with that quote from Rian Johnson, because he hit it right on the nail. You don't make a movie to appease a particular group. You make a movie to challenge an audience. I don't want to go into a movie and say, okay, well, you know what? They ticked off this box, this box, this box. I'm good. I want to, and he even said it himself, I want to be challenged as an audience. I want to go into a movie and not expect what's going to happen next. That's why I enjoyed Last Jedi so much, because they took our expectations and subverted it. Now, some people didn't like that because with Star Wars, there is this big sense of ownership, right? That doesn't exist in any other fandom. This is my Star Wars, and this is how I have to have it. That only exists in Star Wars. Doesn't exist anywhere else.
It exists in some places, but not
as
like
extreme as
yeah,
this.
because this spans 4 decades, more than 4 decades.
Right, exactly.
I mean, this spans generations.
And listen, I went to Phantom Menace, and Phantom Menace, when it came out, you got to understand, there was such a long time. I never thought we were going to get a 4th film in the Star Wars saga. Mm-hmm. And when Phantom Menace came out, that was like, oh my gosh, and it was like in Fanboys when they were like, what happens if this movie sucks? And God, it was one of these things where it's like, you know, I came out of Phantom Menace confused but not angry.
Yeah,
I came out of Rise of Skywalker angry. That's how it is. You know what I'm saying? It's a different feeling from when Phantom Menace came out, and you're like, what did we just see? Where this one, it's like, what the hell did we just see? You know what I'm saying? There's a difference there.
for my next jiu-jitsu competition, I'm gonna watch Rise of Skywalker right before.
Oh, you're gonna choke out everybody in the first couple of seconds. You know.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Real quick, rank the trilogies in order. I will say original trilogy.
That's
Yeah, we can. Of course you
that's
can.
Easy.
Of course you
That's
can.
Easy.
Why not?
all right.
Original trilogy, sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy. 1, 2, 3.
I'll give you right here. Original trilogy.
Trilogy.
I know, right? That's how upset I am right now. Original trilogy, prequel trilogy.
Not even that
Next.
doesn't even warrant a mention.
Hey,
So
because-
so in release order is how you're ranking them, essentially.
I'm not. You know what? There's a part of me that doesn't even want to rank this one because there's no. But there's no
But you have to.
cohesion. There's
Yeah,
no
that's fine,
cohesion.
but you
know
have
what I'm
to,
saying?
though.
So I'll get back to you, and 5 minutes later I'll tell you. Okay, now we'll do the sequel trilogy.
I'm gonna have to agree because I honestly think that the new trilogy is considered irrelevant and not even part of Star Wars. It's like
I think that's.
Don't
that's
be
I
a
wouldn't
troll.
go
Don't
that
be a
that
troll.
far.
that's my opinion.
But
don't judge. Don't judge.
it's super disappointing because you could tell that there's no plan. There was no plan to begin with, and Rise of Skywalker just felt like, you know what? Okay, we have no plan. We got to finish this up somehow. Let's just throw ideas up on the wall.
I think everyone
you know?
was just like, let's just get this over with.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. You
to
know.
me.
It
Well, you
just-
know what? There's one person that had a very positive review. So Jose, how do you rank it? You were the one that brought it up.
Yes.
So
Well, I ranked it. I said original trilogy, sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy. I still think this trilogy was better because I think The Force Awakens was good and I liked The Last Jedi. I liked The Phantom Menace and I liked Revenge of the Sith, but I didn't like them quite as much. And I think that, yes, Rise of Skywalker is the weakest, but it's not as weak as like Attack of the Clones or Solo.
Attack of the Clones
to
is pretty
me,
bad. Yeah.
It's not as bad as those to me, in my opinion. So that's why I reluctantly ranked this a little bit over the prequel trilogy because I still enjoyed it. I don't want to hate on the prequel trilogy entirely. I still enjoyed it, and there's still moments. But I still think this had moments for me as well, the sequel trilogy, which is why it's like just a hair above the prequel trilogy, in my opinion.
I do agree that it's not the worst film, but in terms of because they're first of all the visuals were fantastic. I think
Yeah.
I would say that the visuals in this movie outdoes any of the movies. Okay.
Yeah.
And there are moments, and the acting per se is nowhere near as bad as Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones for me is the low point in the Star Wars universe.
And on
The
all
acting
counts.
is horrendous in that movie. The scene with the fireplace, the scene with the sand.
Don't remind me.
see, but I think that the acting in Phantom Menace is way worse than Attack of the Clones. I think they're both bad, but the kid was way worse than Hayden Christensen. I don't even know the kid's name anymore, but.
Jake
his
Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd.
Yeah, his acting is absolutely terrible, and I mean it's not his fault. He's just a kid, but like
Right.
you know, it's just Hayden Christensen was bad, but
but-
his is really bad.
But look at what's her name? Padme. I forgot what her name is.
Natalie
Natalie Portman.
Natalie
I'm sorry.
Portman, yeah.
Professional, so I remember that one.
Right. Professional, great film by the way.
Leon.
She was plausible in Phantom Menace. In Attack of the Clones, it was a different. It was like she
Well,
didn't
it
even
was
care.
look. You know, the thing
what
is
I'm
that
saying?
like they didn't do a great job of. I think like the love story was forced. You know what I mean? I think that like.
I'm haunted by the kiss that you never should have given me, or something
Yeah,
like that.
you know what I mean. But that's
it's-
but like I still think that the acting in Phantom Menace was worse than Attack of the Clones. I think there was enough in Attack of the Clones overall as a film to, in my opinion, for my ranking, to be a little bit better than Phantom Menace.
Even
It's
with
just
Liam
in my
Neeson?
opinion, the only good thing about Phantom Menace is the final lightsaber battle. That's the only thing that's good. In my
You
opinion.
didn't enjoy the
More
pod race?
Qui-Gon?
I didn't enjoy that, like, because my thing with the pod
Really?
racing, is that it was cool, but it was too drawn out, dragged out for, in my opinion, for no real good reason. You know, because my thing
Okay.
is that, like without the, like, you didn't need the pod racing there. In my
Yeah,
opinion,
I'm not
you didn't
even gonna
need
lie.
it at all. You know, he had already established the midichlorian count of the kid, and the fact that like he was born without a father, of like, you know, like you didn't need anything else to prove that he is something special. So if you take the pod race completely out, then the film is a million times better, and you don't have to deal with the kid's terrible acting. Okay, and on top of that, that first film had, you know, so much more of Jar Jar Binks, which I think was terrible. If you just like shut him up, then the whole film is a lot better too. But anyway, yeah. So for my ranking of the whole thing, it's weird, right? Because like I like the prequels. I don't necessarily like, you know, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones as definitely not as much as I like Force Awakens and
Last Jedi.
And Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But then I love Revenge of the Sith and I hate Rise of Skywalker. So it's like the final film in both
two out
of
of
these.
three.
Just,
Two out of
you know,
three.
like it's like I feel like
2 out of 3 is better than 1 out of 3. That's why I feel that way for the most part.
Okay. See, yeah, that
But
makes sense.
what's your rating though? Because I don't want to
So
hijack what you think.
personally, as much as I hate Rise of Skywalker, I rank the sequel trilogy first, the original, and then the prequel last.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
See, I look at it this way. I'm not looking at the films individually. I'm looking at the story overall. And that's how I'm ranking.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that you can't do that because then you got to rank the entire 9 films overall.
No. But I think
they're all one
you have to do it by a trilogy because, you know, and this is why I don't rank the sequels at all within, you know, above the other two, because the sequels, there's no through line with them. At least you can say with the prequels, bad acting and everything.
There's a through line. I just don't think you like how it went there.
It's
No,
not like
but
I
it's
mean,
very
I understand
disjointed,
I understand that there wasn't planning behind it, but they still there was planning if you consider J.J. Abrams basically taking over 2 out of the 3 movies because you
but
could tell he
took
wanted to get here.
But he took the back. Oh, I don't agree with that at all. I think he didn't have a plan. I thought he was going to do the
I
first.
pretty much like
he was going to do
most of this, except for
But again,
some of it.
he picked fan theories to end this film. Every fan theory that's out there is in this film.
Anyway, let's you know what? Let's get through our last.
Okay. Yes. Continue.
Yeah. So this is only counting the Skywalker trilogy. I'm assuming.
Yeah, we're not counting
Yeah.
Solo and
just
Rogue One.
the,
Trilogy.
Okay.
The main
not
9
the stories,
movies.
the main 9 movies.
So
The episodes.
for me, at first place is going to be the original trilogy. At second place, it's going to be the prequel trilogy, and then third is the sequel. Yeah.
So just like what? Kind of like in release order, essentially.
Yeah.
gets
Yeah,
progressively
pretty much.
worse. Star Wars gets progressively worse as it
Which
goes
is
on.
amazing because I thought it could only get better after Lucas and his prequels and stuff. But hey, here we are, you know.
All right.
All right. Well,
All
that
right.
gets us now to.
Are we ready?
Spoilers.
Get into
Spoilers. Okay, so I guess a little mini synopsis of the plot. Again, spoilers. So the plot begins with Kylo Ren investigating a mysterious message, and this comes from Wikipedia. A couple of these details so you guys know and can follow along.
Wikipedia spoilers.
Wikipedia spoils it always. Wikipedia doesn't care.
Spoilers.
Wikipedia, spoilers. Kylo Ren obtains a Sith Wayfinder device and travels to the Sith planet Exegol. Okay, that's a new planet that we meet in this final installment of the trilogy.
Can I just interrupt 1 second and just say that we should discuss the crawl because AJ had a really big issue with the crawl before we get into the actual movie. The crawl started out with the dead speak.
Yeah,
if you remember,
in caps or something like that.
But not even that. This really goes into my point of how Palpatine was handled. His appearance was in no way as nuanced as I thought it ought to have been. They just flat out say, Palpatine is here and he's active.
Yeah, they spoil that in the trailers though. That was already.
But at least the trailers, fine. You can gauge the excitement. Throw in the laugh. Okay, we know he's going to be there. But to just say, oh, well,
Here's
he's
a
there.
message.
Here he is.
A message of
And
doom.
a message to the universe. A message to the universe that he's seeking revenge.
He's like, hey, y'all, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back to get my revenge.
Where
on
is
all of
this?
you.
The secrecy that J.J. Abrams is famous for was not in this movie.
But not even that. You look at the past iterations of Palpatine. Even in the original trilogy, he was scheming his whole way through. It may not have been apparent in New Hope. You may not have necessarily seen it in Empire Strikes Back, but you for sure see it in Return of the Jedi.
Hold on. Could I just read the crawl?
Sure, go.
Okay, here. The dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast, a threat of revenge, in the sinister voice of the late Emperor Palpatine. General Leia Organa dispatches secret agents to gather intelligence, while Rey, the last hope of the Jedi, trains for battles against the diabolical First Order. Meanwhile,
That's okay.
Meanwhile, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren rages in search of the Phantom Emperor, determined to destroy any threat to his power. ...
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian, for finding that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe they should have shown the Emperor delivering his mysterious message broadcast at the beginning of the movie instead of just saying it.
All right,
But
so
anyway.
I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to bring that up because that was a big point of contention for AJ over here.
Palpatine's back, guys. Hey, y'all. I returned.
Again, and then, so going back to my rant here, and then you see that he especially has an extremely deceptive hand in the prequel trilogy. This movie undoes that whole stigma about the Emperor.
Not necessarily, though, because he was behind Snoke and all of that, according to this movie.
Yes, but
We're getting
He's
ahead of
behind-
ourselves here.
That's
Yeah.
what, but, in order to
Yeah. No, I get
move
it.
the contention forward, he was kind of involved. I mean, that's actually one of the things that I
Very
wasn't
clunky.
necessarily I didn't necessarily appreciate. I don't think he needed to necessarily be pulling all of the strings in this situation. Maybe some of them. Maybe he was fighting other people for that power. Maybe Snoke could have been a bigger character instead of what he ended up being, right? But okay, like what else? What else about that? About the way he was portrayed here? Didn't you like? I guess from the crawl.
that was really it. I expected more of a nuance, a slow return of the Emperor, not just boom, he's back, it's in your face. What are you gonna do about it?
What you gonna do about it, son?
But see, that goes into the overall like pacing of the film and like the issues that I had where like editorial decisions or I guess directorial decisions of like placement, you know what I mean? Like I think that like, his reveal, he's someone that's hidden in the shadows this entire time. Why wouldn't he be slowly revealed as someone still hidden in the shadows?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Instead, it's literally like in the second sentence of the crawl. Just didn't make sense.
That's what I find so ridiculous about how he's handled in this movie.
It's so jarring that I think that actually sets the mood for the film.
Yeah,
the
it
fact that
does.
it's jarring. It's just like everything about the film, in my opinion. Not everything, but a lot of the film was very jarring for me because of that reason.
Yeah. All right, let's get back. Let's go into the movie.
So after the opening crawl, we find Kylo Ren traveling to the planet Exegol. He finds Palpatine there. He looks all messed up. He's not completely there. His hands are all like skeletal, and he's missing like body parts. It looks like so he looks like a mess. And right away, as you contend, is a big problem. And I'm going to say it's not really well handled anyway. It's revealed that he created Snoke, right, as a puppet to control the First Order and to lure Kylo Ren to the dark side, which, I mean, whatever. That's the plot. We'll talk about that.
And we
later
did have
on.
that visual of the clones.
Yeah, we saw the
the
visual
Snoke
of Snoke clones, basically. That's how it's revealed initially to us, and then he espouses that in the
Does he
conversation.
explain it? He
he does.
just says maybe one line, right?
Yeah, it's very passing.
Yeah. Blink and you
essentially.
miss it.
But Snoke was a puppet the entire time, and Palpatine reveals that he's had like a whole bunch of Star Destroyers, basically, like just stored on this planet.
Death Star destroyers.
Yeah, you're right with the
They're
with the
Death
planet
Star
killing
destroyers.
lasers.
Jesus.
Because I guess they had to find a way to one up, like having to lug a planet around all the time to blow stuff
Well,
up.
I
Just put it
think-
on the bottom of a Star Destroyer.
I think it was basically the criticism of the first movie that you basically did another Death Star. He couldn't do it again because otherwise then the fandom would go crazy. So what do? Take the cannon from the Death Star and put it on Star Destroyer.
We saw them threaten with it once. But then, after this, we return to, Palpatine tells Kylo to find and kill Rey for him. Can't forget that because that kind of sets the story in motion.
Right.
And we find Rey is training as a Jedi under Leia, General Leia Organa. And this does reveal to us basically that she, among other scenes in the movie, which I thought were pretty cool, that Leia really did get a lot of training in the Force, which kind of explains a lot of what she was able to do in this trilogy. We get to see a little bit more of the extent of it, and through her training Rey, we learn that she's got enough mastery to be able to teach somebody else, right?
Not only that, but I think this was a thing that Wolfie was pretty upset about. Mastery enough to beat Luke.
Yeah. I mean,
He might have not been taking her seriously, though.
No, he definitely was, because if you see his expression on his face, he lifted up his lid and he's like expressing shock.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
he was able to be like, or shock or awe in her power. You know what I mean? So
Which then, why isn't she out on the front lines if she is that powerful as a Jedi? Why is she taking a leadership role instead of taking a more active role?
Well,
She's
they
a better
just-
leader than she's a Jedi, I think.
no, but that's not what they said. That's what we know from like canon or what could be canon in books, but that's not what they used to explain. They said that the reason she didn't is because in that moment she saw what was it? She saw her
Future.
No, she saw her.
Wasn't it that she
power.
saw Ben's future like going to the dark side or something like that?
You're talking about canon or legends?
No, the film.
In
In
the
the
film
film,
itself?
the reason that what Luke said, that the reason that she gave up the lightsaber is because she saw.
But
Ben's-
why would that be the reason? Wouldn't the reason be?
It wasn't because he
Because-
didn't say that it was because she was a better leader.
And okay, so let me ask you this
So-
question then. Okay, we're gonna hit on something here now. If Ben was being trained, right? Why was Luke training her if Leia seems to be more proficient?
I mean,
And
I don't know.
knowing that Luke was failing at it, why wouldn't she pull Ben away and say, you know what, I'll take over the training?
Yeah,
How does that work in with this reveal in this movie?
no idea. I just don't get it.
Again,
Well,
it doesn't seem like there was a plan with these movies, because you know what, that should have been something that if we're thinking about it, why aren't the writers thinking about it? Why isn't the story group thinking about it?
Especially since the directors are supposed to be more knowledgeable of the actual topic. How come we as fans are more?
Well, no, I think that's the problem, because they didn't rely on the story group. They basically said, here is Star Wars directors, you have the freedom to tell your story, and there was no person over. See, the beauty of the Marvel universe is you have one person that acts almost like a showrunner, like they do in TV.
Right.
There is no showrunner in Star Wars, at least not for these three movies. So these are the things that happen when you don't have one person overseeing the vision. You have three different visions in a trilogy, and it doesn't mesh. And
Well,
so
two
then
different
you
visions.
Well, yeah, but in three different movies. You know what I'm saying? And the third one was retroactively fixing the second one at the expense of telling the story.
Let's get
Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Right.
So, while we see the training, Leia is training Rey. We find the next scene, Finpo and Chewbacca are on a mission to retrieve information from a First Order spy that confirms Palpatine's return.
Julio.
Yeah. And Rey discovers notes in Luke's Jedi text on a fifth artifact that could lead them to Palpatine. So at the same time, they're both kind of discovering that this is what they can do to figure out where Palpatine is and what he's doing. After this, Rey, Poe, Finn, Chewbacca, BB-8, and C-3PO leave for Pasaana to find a contact that Luke Skywalker knew, and R2-D2 stays behind in Lena. This is, again, all in the service to try to see if they can find out what's going on with Palpatine. On Pasaana, they encounter, once again, he returns from the original trilogy, Lando Calrissian. I thought that was a pretty cool scene with his return, and he leads them to the artifact that they're using to find Palpatine, which is its last known location is in the desert.
The bounty hunter's ship.
Which one?
Right? So remember, when Lando was conversing with them, he was telling them how there was a bounty hunter that was right. That wasn't that the thing? His name was
I believe
Ochi.
so. Yeah.
And he ended up being the bounty hunter that was going after Rey and stuff. That was actually the ship that left Jakku, and
The one that left
repurposed
Jakku.
it.
Yeah.
He repurposed it, and he was also in search of the artifact, wasn't he?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was the case in that.
Right. So that the artifact was supposed to be within that ship, or
Yeah.
at least you had the plans to find the artifact.
Or in the
there.
area.
In
At
the area,
least.
right? Exactly.
Fine. So they travel there. Kylo learns where Rey is to their first bond, and he travels to Pasaana with finally the reveal the Knights of Ren in this movie. So we finally get to see them.
Utter waste.
All we did was finally get to see them. That's it.
Yeah.
They did nothing else.
Right.
They provided fight scene fodder, I guess.
And
I
they
guess.
provided that cool Michael Bay tracking shot when they were standing on top of the ridge of the mountain and whatnot.
Like
That
Top
was
Gun
really cool. It
or the
gave
right
them
stuff.
super cool factor, but whatever.
They tried so hard to make them cool because there was a scene where
They were cool.
walking, but
But-
they tried to tell you that they were cool because the first time we see them was when Kylo was walking within the corridors and there was those two stormtroopers, and they said, "Oh, it's the Knights of Ren," and the other guy says, "Cool." I mean, really?
They were
Come
cool.
on.
So Rey and the others discover, obviously, like I said, this assassin, and there's a dagger with Sith text on it, which is supposed to be the thing that helps them basically find the
Oh my god, the
Sith
dagger!
planet.
I completely forgot about the dagger.
Dagger. C-3PO is able to read this dagger, but his programming apparently doesn't allow him to translate Sith
Right.
text, right? So, sensing that Kylo Ren is nearby, Rey goes to fight him, right? And I think this is a pretty cool scene, but we'll get into that more in a minute, I guess. The First Order captures the Millennium Falcon. They capture Chewbacca. They take the dagger, and Rey, trying to save Chewbacca, lets off the first hint of who she is. She destroys the First Order transport with Force lightning, and she believes that she killed Chewbacca, and everybody thinks that Chewbacca is dead. So they move on, like, "Yay, we got the dagger, and Chewie's dead. So let's continue on our journey." Poe, at that point, he suggests they travel to Kijimi to have the Sith text extracted from C-3PO's memory, which is something that they would be able to do in order to translate it, right?
Babu Frick.
And they meet, of course,
Frickin' Babu.
they go there, and Babu Frick helps them get that text. This movie's attempt at Baby Yoda, I guess.
Can
a
I
cute
say
character?
Doesn't work? Baby Yoda's still near and dear to my heart.
Nothing's gonna beat Baby Yoda at this
Yeah,
point.
no one's gonna
though.
be Baby
Yeah.
Yoda.
Yep.
Baby Yoda is probably the cutest thing that has ever existed
In
at
any
this
galaxy.
point. in real life or otherwise. But yeah, Babu Frick was okay. He was interesting. He had some funny moments.
Yeah,
and
I
the
liked him.
text gives you the coordinates, the Wayfinder on Kef Bir. So again, from one plot point to the other.
But they didn't even hold on.
The Wayfinder. I mean,
But
seriously.
they never even got the Wayfinder there, right?
No, they did.
No, they did. Like
Remember, that's the one that crack.
And then she
right,
finds the
but
other one
like
in his
that's
ship.
not. But is that?
That
all
was,
right.
Finds
the,
it
that
in
was
his
the
ship.
one.
Yeah.
They had to go to Kef Bir.
Yeah.
They
But
found another
Wayf-
one, but he had one, so they took the one that he had.
Wayfinder, that's a Sith holocron, dude. Come on, seriously. Anyway, continue.
That could have been a good, yeah.
What'd you say? Sith GPS?
Google Sith.
Exactly.
So Well, by the way, also like, we can't forget that when C-3PO gets the Sith text extracted, apparently this wipes his memory.
Which is where we get a pretty decent scene of him taking one last look at his friends. And this is like kind of the sad part, right? Because he calls them his friends. Meanwhile, all up until this point, they don't treat him as friends.
No, they
it
treat him
sucks.
like crap.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, I want to look at my friends. Meanwhile, kind of giving them that guilt.
And,
They deserve it.
and as much as like I find it kind of corny that he has to basically get his memory washed just to learn another language. I felt that was corny, although that scene was really heartbreaking, especially since C-3PO has been through like basically all of the episodes, pretty much.
That was another forced attempt at emotion.
Yeah.
That really didn't feel earned.
Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing much to it.
All right, let's
yeah.
keep going. Let's keep going.
So at that point, Rey senses that Chewbacca is alive, and they go on a rescue mission. Kylo is continuing to search for Rey, and they actually just come to him, basically, and they infiltrate his Star Destroyer with the help of Zori Bliss, the new character played by... oh, Lord. She was
from
played Felicity.
She was in The Americans. Her name is...
Carrie Russell. Carrie Russell.
Yes.
So Zori Bliss shows up, who I thought was a good character also.
Never showed her face, though.
Of course, we'll all get into that. That was okay by me, though. I didn't think that was necessary. Gave her like a little bit of mystery, like a Mandalorian or something like that. We don't know anything about.
She was this series as Boba Fett.
Yeah, we don't know anything about
she
what
looked
her culture
cool
was like.
and everything, but that's it.
I could have done without it.
Ultimately,
We'll get into
did
all this.
nothing.
Same.
In more detail as we continue on. But so through the Force, Kylo tells Rey the retcon of The Last Jedi, okay? And this is where these are the details that start to go over the rails for me. And, of course, I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment, like I said. So he explains that Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter, and Palpatine had ordered her death as a child because he was afraid of her power. And she recovers the dagger and has visions of the assassin using it to kill her parents. So the dagger has the memory imprinted of her parents being killed, or being killed, Palpatine basically killing his own son and daughter-in-law. General Hux finds them on the ship when they're trying to escape from all of this, and he reveals that he's the spy. He's been the spy this whole time. He's been a mole. So General Hux has been a mole throughout the entire 3 movies.
Snitch. 6'9".
He is a snitch.
6'9".
And he's 6'9". 6'9" is probably a lamer, but still.
Yeah.
Hux, he helps them escape, and he has... Who shoots him in the leg again? It's Finn, right?
Finn
was the one that shot him in the leg.
He asked to be shot in the arm.
He asked to be shot, so they would believe it, basically.
And then he shot him in the leg instead.
Which doesn't really work anyway.
Whatever.
He just gets executed
that's
the next
thing.
time
Like,
you
you
see him.
retcon that whole scene. Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah,
you know
who
what I mean?
cares?
It's like he didn't play any other part in like the plot in any way after that other than dying. But eventually they arrive on
the next
Kef
scene, right?
Yeah, it was
died
pretty
in
much the next
his
scene
next
that he
scene,
was
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I think there was one scene and then the following scene right after that.
Yeah.
It's just like the next scene that Hux was in.
Do him away. Let's keep moving. Ugh.
So he dies.
Mm-hmm.
And
It would have actually been better if Finn didn't shoot him instead. Like, he asked, like, shoot me in the arm, or else I won't believe me. And Finn goes like, no, you deserve what you get. And then he walks away, and then he
There's
dies.
so
That would
many
be
ways that
it's-
you can make this thing better. I mean, really. But
Mary Joseph.
let's continue and get through this synopsis and stuff.
So they get to Kef Bir, and a woman named Jannah, who's also a new character in this, leads them to the remains of the second Death Star. Rey locates the Wayfinder there, and Kylo tracked the group to Kef Bir, so he destroys the Wayfinder at that point, and him and Rey
Wait, hold on.
have a
There's
duel.
something really important here, though.
What's that?
How did they find this Wayfinder? This is one thing that like really actually
dagger.
bugged me that I just realized.
Remember the dagger?
dagger.
Had
All of a
the-
sudden, the dagger has a hidden like Indiana Jones like piece that has you like match it up to the fact that the Death Star is destroyed.
Yep.
So how
It's
did
a-
they
it's a
create this
puzzle
dagger
piece.
that happens to be like?
Dude,
it's just.
I mean,
They added that
seriously,
later
there's-
on.
It's just. it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's a new feature.
Like literally, I can just picture somebody just going, "Okay, let's hold on, don't move. I'm gonna cut this thing just to wait, stop moving. I need to cut this perfectly." And now we got to pull the. I mean, really,
Right, and then like because the Death Star is gonna stay in this exact decomposed state for the next 30
In the
years
ocean.
or whatever. In the ocean. Come on, man.
Come on, seriously. Anyway, sorry, Jose.
So we're gonna go by this scene by scene. So I'll go through each part of the plot, and we can throw our criticisms or positives at
We
it.
will be here forever for that.
Go on. I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
Yeah.
So Rey and Kylo are having their duel, and Leia reaches out with the Force the same way that we've seen between Luke, projecting himself at the end of The Last Jedi, or Rey and Kylo's sort of Force connection. She projects herself into the fight and calls out to Ben, which distracts him for a moment, and Rey gets the upper hand at that moment and stabs Kylo Ren basically right through the gut. At that point, Leia basically, I think through the connection, she ends up dying.
Right.
As a result of being connected to Kylo when he dies.
Seems like she took the full brunt of that stabbing.
It's a good way to interpret it. She kind of took the damage, because Kylo is dying, but he doesn't die right away, and Rey uses the power of the Force to heal Kylo. She explains it as having given him some of her life force, basically, so that he can continue on and help him out with all that. After she does that, she bounces basically to Ahch-To,
steals his ship.
back to where Luke was. Yeah, she steals his ship. She finds the Wayfinder on his ship, the second one. She bounces to where Luke was all this time and decides to, kind of be a hermit herself, just like Luke was. And Luke appears to her. Okay, and here's another moment that I think was, again, why I had an issue with this movie more than anything else. She goes to toss away all of her belongings and destroys their ship and all this stuff, so she has to stay there. And then she goes to toss the lightsaber into the fire of where all this stuff is burning. And Luke's Force Ghost shows up and catches it. And what the exact line was, a Jedi weapon should... You should show a Jedi weapon more respect.
Right, exactly.
Right, which is a direct FU to Rian Johnson, 100%.
I don't necessarily agree it's a nephew, because again, at the moment in just to interject, I'm sorry, but in the moment in The Last Jedi when Luke did that, it was in the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Before his character was developed into a more mature Jedi. I felt like in the beginning of The Last Jedi, he wasn't mature. He was, kind of salty and stuff like that, until the end of the film, where he actually matured into a true Jedi Master. And this is just a reflection of that, I think.
Well, I'll get into it more later why I feel that that's a little more direct. But to me, the biggest reason you can say that is, they say, again, we've probably said this a whole bunch of times, in a movie, if you want to move the plot forward, you show, don't tell. He didn't have to necessarily deliver that exact line. He could have just caught it, and through the way that he acted and through other things that he said, maybe he could have made that point. But again, we'll get into this in further detail as we continue.
One question.
Yeah.
How did they fix the lightsaber?
The one that got split.
That's the one that got...
I'm assuming that Leia is the one that fixed it, because
right.
she's the one that gave it to...
Did we get any sense of that?
No, but then again, being part of being a Jedi Master means that you know how to fabricate a lightsaber.
Okay.
Being that at the moment that she gave Rey the lightsaber is when Rey called her master.
She also has the
that's
ancient Jedi texts.
Okay.
She also
Rey
those.
has.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Rey
that's
has them.
all they used it was for that one little ripped up piece of page that had
It's
all
a
the text.
holocron.
Anyway,
Yeah.
fine.
So right at that point, we have Luke basically telling her that she needs to face Palpatine. That's the end of her journey, basically. He gives her Leia's lightsaber, and he raises his X-Wing, which we saw in The Last Jedi. I think it's a cool callback to The Last Jedi. Maybe the only callback to The Last Jedi. He raises his X-Wing, which you saw was submerged, and kind of he left it there in the water on Ahch-To. He raises it up, and he's like, hey, here's your transportation. Since you destroyed your spaceship, there you go. Here's a new one. So he gives her the X-Wing, and she leaves her Exegol using the Wayfinder from Kylo's ship. And on Kefbir, Kylo has a conversation with a memory of his father, Han Solo, and kind of mirroring the same struggle in The Force Awakens. That kind of theme returns, but this time, instead of stabbing Han Solo's memory, I guess, he decides to chuck the lightsaber, which is the beginning, I guess, of the redemption of Kylo Ren, right? And he reclaims his identity as Ben Solo. So at the Resistance base, R2-D2 restores C-3PO's memory from an old backup, which was mentioned earlier in the movie by C-3PO beforehand.
But not fully. Only up until Force Awakens, right?
No, not necessarily.
like that.
Maybe,
No,
actually,
yeah,
because maybe they
because-
haven't seen each other since then, right?
Right, exactly. And he mentioned that he was going to go on a mission, and R2-D2 said, hey, you did it already.
Yeah.
So it was up until Force Awakens. All of Last Jedi, again, another FU to Last Jedi. All of Last Jedi, he doesn't remember any of it.
Jesus, actually, yeah.
So he doesn't remember. Yeah, this is... We're going to... Like I said, I have a lot more to say.
They retcon C-3PO.
A lot more to
I'm
say.
telling you, that's all this is.
So the Resistance follows Rey's coordinates to Exegol, and then Rey confronts Palpatine. And as he did before, he demands that the Jedi kill him in order to basically, in a way, make him more powerful than you can possibly imagine. But in this case, it's to transfer his spirit and the spirit of all the Sith into Rey. Basically, she becomes the heir to all of the Sith power passed down through the
The
generations.
Sith Empress, I think he called her, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sith Empress instead of the Emperor, which was a cool moment also, I think. So that would give her the power to save the Resistance. Again, it was the same sort of temptation from the Return of the Jedi. This is the only way you can save your friends. Do this, and all of the things that you want to happen shall happen. And of course, you have the same struggle. The Resistance ships, of course, are having a huge battle in space, and they're starting to lose big time. He opens up the port just like he points out to Luke in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
But yeah, then they show Ben Solo. He's rushing to help Rey, after having redeemed himself, and he gets his butt kicked by the Knights of Ren because he has no weapon. He just had the blaster at that point. And then there's a cool little moment, I think, where you see Rey transfer. I think it was Luke's lightsaber.
Yes.
It was Luke's lightsaber through their connection. She
Right.
puts it behind her head, and
That's-
Kylo puts it behind his head and kind of pulls it out like,
Right.
I got my lightsaber.
It was at the point where she was supposed to strike down Palpatine.
Yes, exactly. And I will interject and get off the plot for just a moment to say that was actually one of my favorite little moments of the movie.
That was
when
a cool
Kylo
moment.
gets his lightsaber back, and he's kind of like, "What up?
Yeah, exactly.
What up? What's up now, Knights of
He
Ren?
gave that thing. He was like,
What you want?" That was awesome, and
That was cool.
that's kind of why I like Kylo Ren probably the best out of all characters in this. And Adam Driver is awesome because he took something that wasn't fully fleshed out and made it pretty fantastic, in my opinion. But anyways, they have that battle, right? And he kicks the butt of the Knights of Ren. And then you have Palpatine. He's using his power to do force drain, basically, and steal Rey's life force. Ben shows up. He's stealing both of their life force, basically. And he throws Ben into a pit, kind of like he got thrown into the chasm of the Death Star.
Yeah, he even says that. He was like, as happened to me, I'm throwing
Yeah.
the last Skywalker into the pit.
Exactly, right? So he has his big super bad guy moment after that, and he attacks the entire freaking fleet of the Resistance using Force Lightning, which is insane.
But not just any Force Lightning. This is like the cleansing beam of Force Lightning.
It's like Death Star Force Lightning. It's like the power of the Death Star in Force Lightning, practically.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That
The
moment,
strongest attack we've ever seen
the strongest
the
attack
movies.
from
in the movies. Yes,
Yeah, that's true because there's definitely been stuff in the books.
Nihilus, for
and,
example.
and other places that has been more powerful than this. But Palpatine has that attack with his lightning, and then Rey has another moment that I think was pretty cool, where she hears every single Jedi, and not just from the movies, but from Star Wars Rebels and the cartoons, and from all other canon, all the Jedi from all of the official Star Wars canon, basically
Ayla
speaks to
Secura, Luminara,
Kanan.
Kanan Jarrus, Ahsoka Tano,
Mace Windu.
Anakin Skywalker, both
and they got the
Obi-Wan's.
voices from the cartoons and everything.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So
They got
they're
everything.
specific, 'cause that's the only way you could tell.
Hayden Christensen
Right.
reprised Anakin Skywalker as one of the voices. They had Alec Guinness and
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor, both there. I mean, they had everybody. Yoda.
That was a cool moment. I think Yoda was
was a
there.
cool moment,
So that was a
yes.
cool moment. She kind of, Palpatine has his plan to use the power of all the Sith. She gets the power of all the Jedi. And she uses that strength to attack Palpatine. He turns his lightning on her. And at that point, she's losing the battle because Palpatine, can take out a whole friggin' fleet. But then Ben Solo shows up, not having died from falling in the pit, which apparently there is some precedence to this in his training.
That's after.
Way after the fact.
She's holding him back with the one lightsaber.
Yeah, and then he comes out of the pit.
No. That's after.
That's after he
She
dies.
then takes the second lightsaber.
Well,
and
he
uses
gives
them
it to
both.
her.
No,
he doesn't.
No.
She uses the
He's
Force.
still
He
in
uses
the
the
pit.
Force, yeah.
He comes after.
I guess I didn't pay enough attention in that scene, right?
He's
Yeah, no,
after the fight.
she just uses like the Force to pull it.
Right. So she's holding the lightning back with one hand, and then she uses the Force to grab the second lightsaber, and then uses that to repel him and destroy the Emperor.
And
then that's
frag
when
him,
she
like
that's when
Thanos.
she quote unquote dies. That's when Ben climbs out of the pit.
And uses the Force to resurrect her the way that
whatever
was done from before.
They share a kiss,
which was unnecessary. But, okay, then Ben dies, having used his life force to save Rey.
disappears,
He disappears.
as does Leia.
As all,
And Luke.
I guess, redeemed and light side Jedi
But at
disappear.
the same moment,
Oh, you mean-
yeah,
okay.
that's what I meant. He disappears and Leia disappears at the same moment also.
So, he passes, and obviously, at this point, the Resistance is still losing, but who shows up but Lando, who they had sent earlier to retrieve as much of the Resistance as he possibly could in order to save the day and destroy the Empire. And, oh, man, everybody shows up. There's like a billion. I don't think I've ever seen that many spaceships
That man is a smooth
in a
talker.
movie. Right? He got a lot of people pretty fast.
Yeah, literally, it was like what, maybe I don't know. It wasn't that long. He must have really pushed the Millennium Falcon to the limit because the people that, again, you look at Last Jedi, they called out for help, got nothing. In Rise of Skywalker, you send Lando, you get everybody.
Yeah, well, Luke's
Everybody,
legends.
bring everybody.
Luke's legend, right, helped. The return of his legend supposedly helped this.
The whole point that Luke's legend was supposed to bring hope at the end of the movie, and at the beginning of this movie, there was no hope. There was nothing. So again, I'm just continue because again, we're gonna get off on a tangent, but everybody comes.
So yeah, everybody comes, and Lando leads the Resistance, and they destroy the Star Destroyer, and they destroy all the ships, and they win the battle. The galaxy celebrates, yay! Like we won. Just kind of like you get to see some old characters. You get to see Ewoks again in the celebration. You get to see Cloud City with the Star Destroyer kind of falling behind it. That was pretty cool. You see a lot of old throwback locations like that.
Jakku, yeah.
And we had that little celebration, kind of like Return of the Jedi, and then we cut to Rey returning to Tatooine, but a very specific location on Tatooine, the Lars homestead where Luke Skywalker was raised.
Also, something that happened during the celebration that I really like was Chewie finally getting his medal.
That's
That
true.
was
that was
Leia's medal.
Huh?
That was Leia's medal.
But he got a medal.
But he got it.
He got a medal.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, he got a medal.
Way
from his
too late.
girlfriend,
Way too late.
the alien
that's
that really
right,
likes
yeah.
him.
But I thought that was a touching moment.
Yeah, that was another good moment in the movie. And then, they have the celebration. You see Rey in the homestead, the Lars homestead. You see the moisture evaporators. You see all the original stuff from the original movie set. And she buries the Skywalker lightsabers, Luke and Leia's, in the sand and covers them over and reveals her new lightsaber that's orange that appears to be made out of pieces of her staff that she had from the beginning of The Force Awakens. This is where we get the end of the movie. And a local person asks, "Who are you?" She says her name is Rey. She pauses for a moment. Luke and Leia, their Force ghosts, come out. They say, "What's up?" They smile at her, and she replies, her name is Rey Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker.
Bruh.
The end. The end of The Rise of Skywalker. This is the end of all 9 movies. This is the end of the sequel trilogy. So let's get into it in some more detail. The beginning of the movie, we got Kylo Ren having his meeting with Palpatine. What worked? What didn't?
I just didn't think that interaction should have come so early. Like, oh my god, it just didn't. It didn't like I get in Last Jedi, he was hardcore. Let the past die.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know. Just the whole first part with Palpatine just does not work with me.
Like, is it the plot? Is it his plot?
It's
I guess
the way he
is
was.
it dialogue.
It was his exposition.
Instead of telling instead of showing.
Yes.
In a sense.
Like
That happened throughout the entire movie. Every conversation was expository, in my opinion. Every conversation that was elongated was, okay, this is what's happening, this is what we need to do, this is where we're going to go. You know, every character was exposition. So it wasn't just that line, it was every single line.
Worst offender was probably Poe, in my opinion.
Yes,
who was the weakest
absolutely.
of the main characters in this movie.
Yep.
And I really like
Really?
Oscar
You think so?
Isaac. It's just
I thought
I
Finn was the
agree.
weakest.
Finn.
I think Finn was
Finn
weak
connected with what was that character's name? Jaina.
Yeah, but that's why
I
I think
think
that he
that
was the
was-
weakest, because he also then disconnected with the other characters that he had a story arc with.
He's not the weakest because he's force sensitive, dude.
I think that like so I mean we're going back to like Kylo and stuff like that and with Kylo Ren and Palpatine. My things I agree with you. I think everybody does. I mean, Jose, do you agree with like Palpatine being introduced too early?
I think the Palpatine was. I have to agree that Palpatine being introduced in the crawl, and then being introduced at the very beginning of the movie, like being the first thing that they find, didn't make a lot of sense. I think there should be a little bit more suspense to that.
You know
Like
what?
that could have been the end of the first act, maybe. That's how you end it.
Something just actually dawned on me. I think that this movie would have worked if there was another movie in between Rise of Skywalker and this one, because if there was a movie that introduced Palpatine,
You mean Last Jedi in this one, or
Last Jedi and
So
and
four-
this
four
one,
mo- well,
so 4 movies. I think
there was
that
a different movie in between these.
If
these
there was
two.
a movie that introduced Palpatine and like his plan and his mission and all that stuff,
Yeah, he became,
then this movie would have made sense.
There should have been The
became
Last
the
Jedi.
greatest threat in under 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm back.
and then on top of that, hold on, Kylo, who is introduced as the supreme leader, gets no opportunity to show himself governing and being a supreme leader. So like they introduce him as a supreme leader, but he becomes a lackey within like 2 to 3 minutes. He goes to kill Palpatine, and as the supreme leader with this mission to kill Palpatine, in the first instance, he's turned. And he's like, "All right, yeah, cool. I'll be your apprentice, basically."
See, but
You know?
he really doesn't
was
though,
he
because
his
remember he
apprentice?
revealed immediately he wanted to
Yeah,
reach out to
using-
Rey
he-
and kill
he-
Palpatine. He probably realized in that moment that Palpatine was just way
right,
too
that's-
much for him. I think.
this is true.
No, but I think that was the perfect opportunity to strike because he wasn't all powerful
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
yet. You know,
my
He's
thing
probably
is that,
still
like, my thing is that,
powerful
like,
enough.
why
No, yeah,
seek
you
him
could
out
Probably
then?
still
Same.
he could probably still wipe out Kylo.
But
maybe he
Kylo
didn't
wouldn't have
realize
known
it
that.
until he got there.
Yeah, Kylo didn't know that.
Maybe,
you know?
but still, like, why then seek him out if like his plan is like, you know what, I'm gonna find Rey and then kill Kylo. You know what I mean? Like this, that ends up being like completely unnecessary.
Well, I think the whole Palpatine Rey thing is it makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? Because you know.
Yeah, now that I think about it,
The prediction we
wait a
made
minute,
years ago
Well,
after
well,
the Force
no,
Awakens.
not even
The
reveal.
parentage.
The whole setup for Palpatine, because he wants to kill Rey.
Yeah.
Right? Everything that like AJ said, everything that Palpatine does is meticulously planned. He strategizes decades ahead. You know, he's the mastermind of the original trilogy, and you saw it in the prequels, right? His original thing is he hires this bounty hunter to go kill Rey, kills his parents, cannot find Rey, so that mission is put away. They finally find the scavenger, as he calls her, right? He tasks Kylo to kill her, and then Kylo doesn't do it, but he brings it to her, and then he says, "You know what? I need you to kill me, so then I can transfer my spirit." Then it becomes, I need you. I'm gonna kill you because you're not gonna do it. Then he says, "No, now I have both of you, the Jedi dyad, or the Force dyad, as he called it, right? I'm going to drain both of you, and then I'm gonna become the Emperor." I mean, this does not
But see,
sound like the
But
the
before we get to
Emperor-
all of that, what I need to
you
know, is how is it? Remind me, how is it that Kylo got convinced to get on this mission? What did Palpatine?
There is no
That's
no
what I'm saying.
explanation.
All he did was
There is no
like do
explanation.
this, and Kylo decided to do it.
Yeah, there is no explanation.
That's what I'm saying. I think he
Unless-
already planned on killing him at that point, but he got there and he was like, "This is somebody I can't mess with. I'm
But
going to
that's
try
what I'm
and grab her
saying.
again."
But the
What
thing is
gave
that
him
wasn't
that-
shown. That
yeah,
wasn't
what
shown
gave
at
him
all.
that? What gave him that idea that
Well, he says
this
it.
guy is way powerful?
Well,
But
here's
he goes to Rey once he connects to her almost immediately, and he's like, "Yo, Palpatine's your freaking dad, and we got to kill him."
No. I
I-
agree
that's what I'm
that.
saying,
I
like-
agree that. But where did you get the sense that?
Well, what do you think? What do you think?
here's my thing. When he revealed that I've been that voice in your head all your life, and
Yeah.
basically reveals that he is basically Snoke, the only reason he won up Snoke is because he blindsided him. He
So
could not
blindsided
win.
Palpatine.
so exactly.
Yes, but Palpatine. Okay.
There is no instance at that point that leads Kylo to believe that Palpatine is this all-powerful being that he cannot defeat. There
Because-
is no show of power that Palpatine. He's literally hooked up to a hook.
Yeah,
You
he's
don't-
on life support, literally.
Exactly. What
Well,
makes you
that's-
think that Kylo is looking at him is like, oh, this dude, I can't mess with
Yeah,
him.
like that's what I'm saying. At what point did Kylo realize that like he cannot beat
I
Palpatine?
get the fact that you're saying that he changed his plan and said, you know what,
Afterwards.
I'll kill afterwards. But it's not because he was scared of him. There was no reason to be scared of this old, feeble-looking guy that's hooked up, like you said, on life support.
This is, in my opinion, this is one of those like what if moments, just like Game of Thrones. Like, what if Ned didn't go down to Westeros? Then we wouldn't have had any story. It would have just been the end. And it would.
Exactly.
This is one of those things that like, oh, we're gonna start the movie off with him facing off with a weakened Palpatine that shows no reason for Kylo not to kill him, which is what he went there for.
This is what you do.
If Kylo had done it, then that would have been the end of the movie. That's it.
the minute that Kylo pulls out his blade and puts it on, that's the point where you show Palpatine and his power.
Yeah, that's
do
when,
something
yeah,
with that.
Yeah,
He
they didn't do any
anything.
of that. This is a new point
He
to
didn't
why.
do
You know what?
anything.
I'm gonna go from 1 out of 10 to 0.5.
Well,
Because this is another one.
we have to also remember he was like, "Hey, I have 4 trillion Star Destroyers if you do my bidding, so you'll get to keep those."
Right, but
That
if he
is
kills
pretty-
them, why wouldn't he
Yeah,
get
he
to
could
keep
still
those
take
anyway?
it anyway.
Well, he didn't know how to control them.
What
They were
did
being
you say?
controlled by Palpatine.
Possession is 9/10 of the
9/10
law.
of the law. Yeah, but see, here's the thing, right? So like he kills them. There's no leader for this Starfleet. He still already has the First Order at his command.
And
He's the
his
supreme
name is
leader already.
Supreme Leader.
He's already the supreme leader. He doesn't need any of this. It's not like he's like some like guy trying to like take over the galaxy. He already is the leader of the galaxy.
You get some cool new toys though,
But he could take that just
He
by
could just
killing
take it.
Palpatine
He could
right
just
there.
take it.
but he can't kill Palpatine. All right, well let's
Why
let's
not?
move. Let's
That's
move on,
the
'cause
thing.
we-
Why? Oh my God! You
we're
just
harping
blew
too
my
much on
mind.
Palpatine thing.
You just blew my mind. I can't believe we overlooked the fact that there's no reason for Kylo not to kill him.
Exactly. Again, one of these things where it's like, what the F, you know?
Well, we think he can't, but that's like moving on. We get to the scene where you have Leia training Rey, which was that the right choice to have Leia revealed to have this kind of Jedi power? What do you guys think? And to be training Rey, to be her new trainer.
If it had been done over time through the 3 movies, then sure, but it was not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
showed
That was
Leia
unfortunately 'cause of
using.
Carrie
They
Fisher
showed
passing,
Leia
though.
using the Force powers to float back to the ship. You know what I mean?
Don't call
in
her
Rise.
master. Don't call her
That's the
master.
thing. They made her a master.
You know, I'm okay with her training, but don't make her, you know, the highest point of the Jedi Order. Even with
As a
Luke
matter of
being
fact,
there, you know?
matter of fact, I felt like in this movie they showed Leia teaching Rey much more than Luke taught Rey.
Right.
Right?
Luke was also reluctant.
Yeah. And plus,
Sure.
she probably had more time with him than Luke.
I
Luke
mean, I
had
guess,
some time
yeah.
also, but it
Yeah,
was
but
the time
Yeah,
that they
but
were
we're
being
talking
chased.
we're talking about like
as opposed
Leia
to-
being taught by Luke versus Luke being taught by Yoda and Obi-Wan.
Luke didn't have much time with either of them.
Yeah.
He had
He had little time. Remember, even they said your training is nowhere near complete.
No,
You
I
know?
remember that.
He,
But
he basically
Luke had
it was
more
only a
time
month. Only months.
than Rey. Luke had more time with Yoda than Rey had with Luke.
Right, but we're talking about Leia though. Like, how did
Right.
Leia become a
There's-
master if she was trained by somebody that didn't master the Jedi art, and who happened to give it up halfway through her training?
Well, I think Master was more of a title as
but that is
of,
a title
of
that you're not
respect
supposed. I don't
than
know.
a
I don't
title
think so.
of you're a Jedi Master.
No, she
I don't
kind
know.
of. I think that she like showed that she's a Jedi Master because she's able to like force communicate with Kylo, and she's able to train Leia
And since when
very
did
accurately, and she can fix the lightsaber. You know what I mean? Like,
since
all
when
these
did that
things.
power become like a general thing that everybody now knows? You know,
Which power?
The force,
power
force
to
communication,
to
force IM.
communicate, yeah, to go
Force DM.
over these long distances and whatnot.
I
Slid
think-
in by force.
The Last Jedi talks about that power, but remember, every time it says that by doing that they drain their life force, especially
Right.
across long distances.
But we've
And
never
it's
seen
been-
it before, and now we've
Yeah, we
seen
have.
like
Luke
100.
and Leia in The Empire Strikes Back. When Luke falls down off
Not
Bespin.
even that.
But they weren't
Vader
that far
and-
away. They were
But
in
still,
the same
that shows
vicinity.
that they know the power. They can learn to get better at it. I think
guess.
that's a bit of
okay.
too much of a nitpick.
Yeah. I guess you're
You
right.
got, you see, I know you guys
Yeah,
don't
no,
like the movie, but
no,
you're
no, no.
getting.
I like the Force DM. You know what I mean? I'm cool with that. I
My
just
bell.
don't understand how Leia became a master of all these powers. You know,
But
seemingly overnight.
I
you know?
don't think she was a master, but I think
To
I
be-
think that she was the best that was available, and that's why she
Right,
was
because
a
she's
master.
the only one
bested
available, but
Luke.
she still was
Exactly.
able. The fact that she was still able to do all these things out of nowhere is my problem.
They
You
showed
know what I mean?
her best Luke.
Luke underestimates people, though. He always has. That's always been his mistake.
That's been his mistake, but they showed in this movie her besting him without showing how she got so good. That's my problem.
Yeah.
The only instance that we saw her with a lightsaber was her besting Luke.
And she did
Right?
complete her training, by the way, because they did mention that her last day of training.
Oh, that was on her
Right.
last day of training.
Exactly. So
Yes.
she did complete her
She
training.
said, I just read it. She said that she saw her son die, which is why she gave it up. She said that like her son died if she continued on this path, which is why she gave it up.
from Jedi Knight.
Died
to
anyway.
Master.
So she was
a
mastered
Jedi
it
Knight.
enough.
She became a Jedi Knight because she completed her training, and she became a Jedi Master over time. It's implied.
I guess, yeah, but
Right?
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you can't show. They showed within essentially a few minutes worth of scenes
In the other
her
movies, right?
being
Yeah.
a Jedi Knight, besting the last surviving Jedi Master, and then her becoming a master to another apprentice. You know, and she's able to use all these other force powers that they've never shown her using before. You know what I mean? My thing is that like it's one thing to like it's totally cool. She's a Skywalker. She should be a Jedi. She can't be a Jedi. The whole nine, whatever. But don't do it over the course of just 10 minutes when you have 3 films that they could have done it with. If you didn't do it in the beginning, don't just shove it in the film. Because in my opinion, that whole training Rey could have been done better simply by giving her the fact that she has the Jedi texts.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this one thing. Leia being a Jedi Master, there's a line in the movie where Poe is basically scolding Rey, and he's like, you know what? Why are you here? You're the best fighter in our thing. We need you out there, not here training. Why isn't Leia out there?
That's true too.
You know. If
I mean,
she's a
then again,
Jedi
see,
Master-
my thing is, I do understand logistically they couldn't do that anymore because Leia's.
Oh, no, of
dead.
course, but, you
that's
know.
my thing. Like, don't force the story then.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Just don't
still-
make her a master. Don't,
I still think though
don't finish the
that's more
training.
down to Leia was she like her power, because every Jedi has this different power, right? Like every Jedi Master or has like not a different power, but like a different thing that they're better at.
Different
And I think
understanding
Leia,
of the-
like Leia's power was a social power in a way. It was one that improved the ability of the people that she was in command with. Like I think that was more her power. She was a
But they
natural
didn't- but they
force
didn't-
leader.
right? But they
Right?
didn't. But they didn't show that either. They showed her politically. They didn't show her using the force to be a leader. They showed her politics. You know, they showed how she used politics to be a leader. You know, it'd be one thing if it was like, you know, I feel like we need to do this in order to like win this battle. I feel like, you know, if she spoke more like Finn did in this movie, where like, I have a feeling about this. Then then you can kind of make the case that like she's using her Jedi powers for the leadership of the government.
It
So-
sucks though because it's hard to have made that happen, like you said, because of Carrie Fisher's
Yeah, so
passing.
then my thing is like, if you're gonna do it half-assed, don't do it at all. Especially when there was already a plot device that could have solved that issue. She has all the Jedi texts, which was a big deal in Rise of in the Last Jedi.
A lot of things were a big deal in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that
Just
they
got
retconned it, but I think
hand-waved.
it's really cool that like we finally got to see like where the Jedi first started, the master text and all this, that, and the other.
And
The
she's a
fact that
natural
she
at this
Yeah, she's
also.
a natural. So why shouldn't she be able to like go as a hermit in the forest on her own and train herself?
Agreed.
And they could have done something where like Poe's like, "Where's Rey? We need her." She's like, "I don't know where she is. She's somewhere in the forest."
Well, I
and then
mean,
he goes in
you
the
have,
forest.
you have to remember again that the reason she quit is because she realized that if she continued on that path, that Kylo was going to die. So, I mean, if
But
you
where
had
did-
that
where did you
vision,
See that? Where did you see that? That was written
That's
in the
Luke
book.
explained that.
It's
Luke
part of the.
explained that.
It's,
Oh,
it's,
it's
it's,
in there?
It's
yeah,
it's
Luke
part of-
explains that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. That's Luke explains that to Rey. Yeah,
That's why she
Okay.
quit.
Yeah. But
So if you knew that if you continued with all of your Jedi training and maybe
But she finished it.
but she finished it before that, and then she had the vision. She finished her Jedi training, then she had the vision of Kylo
right,
dying
she got
or
off
Ben
the-
dying.
that's fine, and that's
So
what
the
I'm saying,
timeline
that-
on that makes sense, and then it would make sense why she wouldn't be fighting,
Right,
why she
so-
would want to stay behind in a position of leadership even to this day.
I understand, and my thing is like I don't think that that's. This is why I say that there's a good story to be told. I think they just told it wrong because it's. I'm totally cool with that storyline, but they delivered it wrong. You can't deliver that over just a couple of minutes and then expect us to just like eat it because you served it.
Let me ask you
when
this.
there's a better way to explain Rey's training.
Let me ask you this question. They were basically pinned down in crate, right? The entire resistance. Leia was a part of that group.
Yeah.
Leia did nothing. With all that power, you're looking at the extinction of the resistance, and she did nothing with all that power. And I understand the whole dynamic of, you know what, if I pick up the lightsaber, if I do this and that, you are looking at the extinction of the galaxy's only hope. And if you're going to take the stuff that was in Rise of Skywalker, why did she not step up at that moment when they were at the end of their rope? That makes no sense whatsoever. I'm sorry. You cannot explain anything away with that. You're looking at the First Order bearing down and killing every instance of the resistance, and you do nothing as a Jedi Master. Can you explain that?
This is why I'm saying that like they shouldn't have done it at all if they weren't gonna do
Exactly.
it from the beginning.
Exactly.
You know.
You didn't have to do it. It's like he said, she already is a natural in the Force. She has powers without any training whatsoever. She picked up the ability to use the Force to influence people without even knowing it. Nobody taught her that.
No one taught her that. Yeah.
She has the Jedi text. Do that instead. That makes more sense
Like,
than
actually-
making her a master, because now every film before it, you question what the hell was she doing at that point.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But like,
Okay.
I mean, you know, and the other thing that I think that makes the Jedi text a better device to teach Rey, in my opinion, is
It
like
makes
in
it
the end,
important.
you know, like in the end, for example, when she has like her custom lightsaber, who taught her how to make this custom lightsaber and all that? She could have learned that from the book. She could have mastered things. Like, as a matter of fact, like, the next evolution of the series could be how she's rediscovering the Force through these master texts. you know
Gabe,
what I mean? Like,
what is the line that they love to use in this movie? 1,000 generations live in you now.
Yeah.
Where are you getting that from? The Jedi text.
Exactly.
Where
But, like,
is
you
all
know.
that knowledge coming from? The Jedi text.
So this is again why I have an overall issue with the movie, is that I don't think that I think that there's a really good story in the film. I think that they just delivered it all wrong. You know, like I said, with the introduction of Palpatine, with the way that Rey was trained through Leia, with the relationships that that Poe and Finn started with Rey, and you know, Poe with Rey. In my opinion, I don't know. Did you feel like there was some sort of like flirty connection there with Poe and Rey in the beginning of the film, at least? Definitely at
little
the
bit.
end.
Just a little.
Just a little, but only because they only had the one scene, and then you had the rest of the film where there was disconnect. But if you think about the end of The Last Jedi, when he introduces himself to her, he introduces himself in a way where like, oh snap, I'm kind of into you. He goes like, hi, I'm Poe, and you have like a little bit of a look.
Hubba,
and then
hubba.
you start this film very similarly, the way that in Empire Strikes Back, how Han and Leia started, very like bickering and flirtatiously bickering.
Yep.
So you kind of feed us that and then dismiss it. And then again, like I go back to Finn, you fed us Rose in the last film.
That
and
man's
then
all
you-
over the place.
And then you show him being interested in Rey in all the films. And then you introduce Jaina and then have nothing happen with any of them.
Finn's a player.
So it's like okay, so you get fed like these crumbs and like these little appetizers, and you're waiting for the main course, and then it just never comes. They just bring you the check. You're like, wait, I didn't get the rest of my meal. And these are some of the issues that I have. If you just edit out like the scenes where he's about to tell Rey that he loves her, presumably, if you get rid of Jaina completely, I think that there's already a much better storyline just for Finn, because then Finn's story arc becomes how he's getting more in tune with the Force and nothing else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right,
my little
so there's Palpatine. So all of that.
So we have the scene with Leia and Rey, right? And then after that we have the scene where where Finn, Poe, and Chewbacca discover the information that leads to them figuring out that Palpatine's alive, which
Doesn't
they
make
had to
sense
confirm that.
because supposedly everybody already knows that he's alive, right?
I guess they had to confirm it through a mission to an ice planet. That part was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
that was pointless
That I
when
agree
you
was
already
pointless.
tell the so
audience,
actually
yeah.
not even just the audience.
Dead speak.
Like there's a transmission going through the entire galaxy saying that it's Palpatine.
Yeah.
Well, that was another sort of expository scene. I didn't like that scene either, so I'm not going to dispute that in any way. That scene seemed kind of pointless.
It did bring us Julio, the first Hispanic in the Star Wars
Julio.
universe, which we see Julio's head later.
What do you do?
Yeah.
So around the same time, Rey, there's the scene where she discovers the notes in Luke's Jedi text that could lead into Palpatine, which I guess shows that Luke was always keeping track of what Palpatine was doing, I suppose. And he was still scared, so he was prepared, but he was
But-
still like, I'm not going to mess with that right there. I'm just going to let Palpatine do his thing. So that was a little rough for me also, I guess.
So where do we think that this him looking for the Sith holocron? I refuse to call it a wayfinder, by the way. Where do we think that this happens in Luke's career? I guess when is he searching for the Sith holocron?
Probably, I would say. They don't say that, and they'll probably, if anything, they'll probably flesh that out in comics or video games or something like that. But I would say, by my estimation, that happens maybe either just before the fall of Kylo to the dark side or just after. It has to be around that time, before or after. I don't see any other reason for him to do it otherwise beforehand, unless he always knew and he was preparing Kylo to take him on.
So why was he searching for that Sith holocron in the first place?
He knew Rey's parentage, apparently.
Okay, and he totally abandoned it at that point.
What, the holocron?
The search for the holocron.
We abandoned everything.
You know?
I think there was probably a point that you could say he was still somewhat engaged in trying to figure all this stuff out in the galaxy, and then maybe when Kylo fell to the dark side, he was like, well, I don't even have my ally who's in my family, so screw all this, I'm done. Here's the holocron, forget about you, Rey, forget about you, Palpatine, and move on. So we have the mission where they go to Pasana, which looks a little bit like the planet from The Force Awakens where Maz Kanata is from. It's like a similar festival going on. Takadana. There's a festival going on. We get the return of Lando Calrissian, which I think that was a cool scene. I like that scene. I mean,
Okay.
there wasn't much to it other than Lando
Right.
basically giving him some more information, being expository, but I think that they handled it pretty well. And seeing Billy Dee Lee was back in the role was good.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I mean?
don't necessarily agree with his costume, all in like the tight top and everything. I
Listen.
think he could have been a little bit more modernized.
That's
you know?
Lando being Lando.
He
man.
could have still had a cape.
But he's
I
the
don't know about
original
that
OG.
tight V-neck.
Listen, he's the OG.
He's just like Han Solo. He's clinging to it.
He's like the galactic pimp attire, right?
Exactly.
Still clinging to it. I think he had some of the better lines in the movie.
Oh yeah,
too.
he did. I think he was great.
So Lando worked too. I would say, if anything, we want to talk about positives.
Lando and Chewie together worked really well.
That was really good.
That was a nice reunion. I think Chewie worked well in this movie also, since we're discussing him. He doesn't get many scenes, and he does get the scenes where we do get something from Chewie are either funny or super freaking emotional, like when he finds out Leia passes away, and when he gets the medal.
Yes, that was really
Those
good.
are both pretty awesome.
Can I ask how you guys felt about the humor? Because I felt the humor in this movie was forced, ridiculous. There was no point that
There was nothing that
chuckled,
was outright
you know?
funny.
You want to know why? You want to know why it was
I-
forced? I can tell you exactly why it was forced. It's because the relationship connection was not there anymore. So then the humor didn't play.
3 viewings in a movie theater. Not once did I hear laughter in any of the 3 viewings.
Yeah, that's
and
true,
and I'm talking about morning, afternoon, evening.
Again, and
Nothing.
And I think it's because they did really bad character development. You know what I mean? Like those scenes with C-3PO were supposed to be humorous. But
They weren't.
because of the way that they developed the characters
felt
and their
mean.
relationships, yeah, it felt mean. You feel really, really sad. And it's like, damn, dude, like what the hell? What's wrong with you? Like stop. And I've never been a fan of C-3PO. I actually really dislike C-3PO.
He can be annoying.
He's very, very annoying, and it's one of the reasons.
Human-cyborg relation.
It's one of the reasons I don't like I don't enjoy the original trilogy as much as I should because of C-3PO. I just think he's a little bit too annoying for me.
Okay.
Oh, my.
And I think that he speaks
He's
too
your
much.
Jar Jar from the original trilogy. He's
Well, Jar Jar is the C-3PO of the prequel trilogy.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
who's worse? Because if you ranked you ranked that second. You ranked the prequels.
Well, I mean,
Well-
I'm not gonna base the prequels off of just Jar Jar because thankfully they stopped giving him a bunch of lines.
After that first
Yeah.
one, backlash was there, and
I like C-3PO more than Jar Jar because C-3PO has a good relationship with R2-D2, which is great. You know what I mean?
thanks,
straight man.
Maker.
But yeah, in this film, like I did not feel. I wasn't annoyed by C-3PO at all. I was actually really, really like sad and upset. And then I was even more upset. Speaking of C-3PO, I was even more upset that they retconned C-3PO within the film. So they kill off his memory. They give him a wonderful kind of goodbye and everything, and then they bring his memory back. It's like, oh well, that emotional scene that you just saw, forget about it. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
No goodbyes.
You know,
but he doesn't know who they are, right? So they're not his friends anymore.
Only
doesn't
for a
know
little
exactly
bit,
who
and that
they
would have
are.
been fine.
Even at the end.
No, not at
because
the end.
remember, they
Yeah,
brought
he
back his
remember-
memory.
brought
Yeah,
back-
but remember, it was from The Force Awakens.
Yeah, but he
Right,
still
but he knew them by then.
Yeah, he still knows them by then.
You know? He was
No, the
going on
issue-
missions with them,
Yeah.
as a matter of
Yeah,
fact.
okay.
So,
Yeah, no, my issue is that. So my thing is like, this is actually what would kill the second viewing because the emotional scenes, if you retcon them, they know you there's no emotion to go back and try to feel again, right? Like that scene with C-3PO, when I saw it, I really felt like, oh my god, like
they
I
didn't
felt
give
something.
you enough time to feel the moment because a couple of scenes later they retcon it. They retcon
But even
it,
if,
you know?
but see, if they didn't even need to do that, they didn't need to bring his memory back. And if they didn't, then when I go to watch the movie again, I'm gonna feel that same feeling of sorrow for seeing him having to give up his memory again. But no, like
Yeah, just
you
keep
know?
him with no memory. Leave it like that. I don't understand the reason why you needed to take his memory in the first place, but if you're gonna take his memory, keep it that way.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
stop
saying?
second guessing your decisions. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like if you're gonna,
But again, another way to appease the fans.
yeah,
Appease the fans. That's all this movie is
I'm gonna
appeasing
kill
the
off
fans.
Chewbacca, then I'm not gonna kill off Chewbacca. I'm gonna kill off C-3PO, but I'm not gonna kill off C-3PO.
Nothing was earned.
So after they have the scene where they led to the artifact and they have the little Indiana Jones moment with Lando Calrissian, where they end up kind of in those caves, right, to retrieve the artifact. Kylo has found out through his force bond with Rey that they're on Pisana and the Knights of Ren show up. I think, in my opinion, the whole part when Kylo showed up, that was when the movie was starting to pick up a little bit more because the action in the desert was pretty cool. The scene that we did see in the trailer, yes, with Rey flipping over the TIE fighter, we actually see what she did to it, and it was pretty awesome.
That
I
was
think.
really cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. That showed how much she had grown in the Force. how much more powerful she had gotten, and it was like a little bit of a game of chicken or like a western or something like that.
More
That she kind of
importantly-
faced off with Kylo, and then Kylo basically showing like, is that the best you can do? And walking out of the fire,
Yeah,
like
exactly. That's what I was
whatever,
about to say,
dude.
You know,
what again? Kylo being like, "Psh, and what?
fire retardant.
And that was kind of cool. I think. What did you guys think of the scene there where they kind of have their escape from the planet from Kylo Ren and their quick confrontation with some of the First Order there? Did that scene work for you at all? Were there
It was okay.
any big nitpicks?
I mean, you know,
Irrelevant.
yeah, irrelevant. Really.
Irrelevant.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
a lot of the scenes felt irrelevant.
The only thing that you saw was Rey's kind of tapping into the dark side of the Force with the Force lightning.
Yeah,
That
she
is
takes
not
down the transport with
Yeah.
her and Kylo having the.
That was-
that is
that
not a
I-
Jedi power.
Yeah,
That's
that was
a,
cool.
That's a Sith power.
Yeah.
You know, so that probably is the only thing you take away out of that whole scene.
That's when everybody
You know?
who thought that she was a Palpatine was like, "Yep, she's a Palpatine." I'm like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
exactly.
like, it's also one of those things that like go ahead and reinforces the fact that she is such natural. No one had to teach her to use that. She's never even seen
She just
that
tapped
power.
into it.
She just tapped into it,
You know?
right? You know what I mean?
it skips
With that-
generations in the Palpatine
rage.
family, apparently.
Yeah, with the rage, yeah.
It's not like the Skywalkers where every generation, you guys are so talented. No, the Palpatines are like, nah, you suck. But your daughter, she's gonna be awesome because his son didn't have any powers apparently.
Yeah, that's
Well,
very
no,
true.
wait,
Or if he did,
that's-
there's
maybe,
no-
but remember what it was is that like
Speaking
they
of that.
chose to be nobodies. So I can
Yeah.
understand that. You know, they
Okay.
chose not to,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah.
nobodies, and I like that. You know what I mean? I like that. Like, you want to know why I like it? Because it does like it gives her parents the identity and also a little bit of a lesson that you can choose who you want to be. You know, which plays towards the end of the film too.
Okay.
You choose who you
Yeah.
want to be. You don't have to be beholden to your name or your history or your past. You choose, despite your history and your past, who you want to be in the future. Which is why I agree and I like the fact that she chose to take on the name of Skywalker.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
that too.
I didn't like the fact that Kylo goes back on what he says and he says, yeah, they were nobodies. Oh, it's because they chose to be. You know, I wasn't too cool about that. I agree with your premise that, you know, it could be that they chose not to use the Force because we've seen
I think
instances.
that's more what it is.
Yeah, we've seen instances of Jedis choosing to cut themselves off of the Force, Luke being one of them, you know. It was a clunky way of saying, hey, yeah, I told you they're nobodies, but really they're nobodies who chose to be nobodies. I just have to add that caveat. It was a clunky way of doing it, you know?
The thing is that that's also like Kylo from the dark side. Remember, being part of the dark side, you're also very manipulative. You know what I mean? You say the things.
I don't think he's like that because he kept on telling them, I only speak the truth to you. And quite honestly, that's
Yeah,
what
but like the
he's
truth can
done.
still be skewed. The truth can still be skewed by perspective.
Yeah,
and the thing
I
is, in
guess,
his
but
perspective, he's like,
I
oh,
think
like
you give-
because they gave up the Palpatine name or whatever, they are nobodies. So they're nobodies that chose to be nobodies.
I
Well,
think you're giving
Trading them for
Kylo
drinking
a little
money
too much credit.
was a
you know?
lie.
No,
Well,
I don't think he's that
There's-
smart. To be, I don't think he's as manipulative as that. That's
really?
something
Because like in
that's
Rise of
Palpatine would do.
because in the Last Jedi, obviously he killed Snoke, and then when it came time for like to
But he
see
didn't-
who, he
he-
was like, the girl killed Snoke. Now we must do this. You know, he was
Yeah.
smart enough to take advantage of situations.
but he didn't care for Snoke. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no, I know, but I'm saying as far as like the intellect to be able to take advantage of a situation and manipulate Hux and.
Guys,
everything
I need
else.
my teammate to chime in with me here. I'm getting piled on. I need help. I need help. Let him speak.
There is one thing that I can speak to about Kylo and his retcon, per se. In the initial interaction in the beginning with Palpatine, I think that's where he had the bombshell dropped on him that, oh, she's a Palpatine.
Probably.
Because
But that wasn't, I guess they didn't
It's not
imply
so-
that enough.
I
then
think
why
it's
would
not
he say
so
that
much-
in the beginning, in the second movie.
because he didn't know.
So then why even offer it to her at that point?
Because he now cares about her for some reason.
Because
But
of their
he cared
connection.
about her in the second movie.
But he still didn't have that information.
Right, but my point is that in the second movie, he offered that information as fact. Right? Did he
Because
not?
what he
'Cause that's all he
thinks
understood
he
at the time.
knows is fact.
Okay. I don't know.
And she blocked it off, what she explained in this movie also. It was there, but she also didn't, like, really confront it as that being part of her lineage. She knew, too. And, like, you know, in reality, if she blocked it off, it kind of is the truth because she doesn't even believe it to be the truth anyway. Truth is subjective. In this case, that's a little bit of a stretch, but he didn't know anyway in the second movie. So it's kind of hard to say that he would be lying about it in the second movie if he had no idea. Okay. I mean, how would he have had an idea? And if he did, how would he rush off in this movie to go kill Palpatine if he already knew that Palpatine was around and he knew that Rey was Palpatine's granddaughter? Like, it makes some sense if you think about it.
Okay.
But I don't know if you think there's any other reasoning behind that, but also we have to mention also so presumably Chewbacca is killed by Rey's Force lightning. Let's not forget
Yeah,
that. That was pointless.
Yeah,
that was pointless for me.
That would have made that scene so much. When I first saw that scene, I was like, "What the hell?"
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have liked Chewbacca to go out like that, though.
No,
not like that. Which I'm glad
like
that they
that.
didn't. You know what I mean? What
Chewbacca needs to go out in a blaze of glory.
Why even put that there?
The reason you put it there
was to see the lightning.
Is one to see the lightning.
Yeah, I know,
but the other thing too is to kind of give gravity and reason and everything for the crew to go on a mission for something. The problem is that they, like from the viewer standpoint, they take that away from you by showing you that he's alive. If they show you that he's presumably dead, and then they show you the crew going on a mission that they have to do because they don't want Chewbacca's death to be in vain.
And they all find
right?
We find out at the same time as the characters.
We find out at the same time as the characters. We share the emotion that the characters have, right? Like the whole reason for, like, for example, it would make the C-3PO giving up his memory that much more weighted because it's like, look, we cannot let Chewbacca's death be in vain, and C-3PO decides to agree, like, you know what, let's do it.
But that's still a cop-out because you're looking at the extinction of the universe. You don't need Chewbacca's death to be the thing that pushes you forward.
Well,
you know?
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
That's
listen,
fine.
Unless you drop a moon on Chewbacca, he ain't going nowhere. Like, he better die in the most epic way possible.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, like it can be hard to express that this is the end of the universe without the Star Destroyers already being in your face. At this point, we don't have like that looming threat of death. We haven't seen the example of the Death Star destroyers destroying a planet, so we don't have that feeling yet. But what else is going to give the crew sense of urgency, a reason to come together and do everything, and also have Rey questioning whether she's like going to the dark or the light and whatnot. If they didn't have that scene, but then they kill it off by revealing that Chewbacca's alive.
Yes, so
you know
that's
dumb.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
don't do that if you're just gonna pull that, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like, don't do things if you're gonna do it half-assed.
Yeah,
and that's what
they
did.
They
you
do
know what I
it
mean?
a bunch of times in this movie.
Like, they could, as a matter of fact, they didn't even have to show Chewbacca physically for another hour because he didn't. After they revealed that he was alive, he wasn't in another scene for another hour. So why do that? You know,
true.
Might as well just wait until you need him to show that he's still alive. You know what I mean? And this is, again, these are the things that I have a problem. Like I think that his fake death worked. I think that they told it wrong.
No,
you know what I mean?
I don't think that the fake death works for me.
It doesn't work the way that it was done.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It would have worked if they revealed him later. If you spend an hour believing that Chewbacca was dead, and the characters, you know, like, imagine that that the crew goes on a mission and then the mission ends up failing. Now you feel like they failed and Chewbacca's dead, and then all of a sudden they have the Chewbacca revealed, and it's kind of like, you know, you have a little bit of faith restored, you know. But you need to also have, like, in the screenwriting schism, there needs to be the all is lost moment, you know, which they had in the end when they show like all the destroyers being destroyed and everybody dying and stuff like that. But you need to have that not in the third act. You need to have that at the end of the second act. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, where they should have played, or somewhere in the second act, the middle beginning, the middle of the second act, or the end of the second act. They got to show the all is lost moment, the moment where everybody feels like they failed and that this isn't going to work. and then have the third act begin and show Faith being restored before the final end.
So let's move on to. I don't think we're on the second act yet.
Boy.
Yeah, let's move through this.
The second act will be quick.
So Poe and them travel to Kajimi to get the Sith text extracted from C-3PO's memory, and then we have the scene that we don't even have to talk about it much anymore. We kind of covered it. C-3PO decides to allow his memory to be wiped, which was a great scene. I agree that it was stupid that they gave him his memory back almost in full by the end of the movie, because that scene was awesome. That was one of the best scenes of the movie, actually, in my opinion, at least emotionally. That scene was great. What did you think, AJ?
One thing I did like, though, I like how, like, when they okay, hold on. When C-3PO finally got around to translating the Sith text, like, you really just got the sense that there's just so much evil that coalesces around the Sith. Like, just
Even
him
with
reading
robots.
it, he almost took on a completely different personality. It was
His voice changed.
insane.
Yeah. His voice changed. It was scary. Like
Yeah.
it was a good scene overall. It's actually more scenes should have been played out like that, and then the payoff maybe wasn't so great.
Right.
So we have that scene. Any other thoughts on that scene?
No.
Yeah.
I think we've talked enough about that scene.
we went over that scene quite a bit.
Yeah, let's move on to the next
So
one.
of course they find out, where the Sith holocron is on Kef Bir,
Thank you.
right? And at this point,
Appreciate it.
on their way to Kef Bir, Rey senses that Chewbacca is alive on Kylo's ship, and they infiltrate his Star Destroyer with the help of Zori Bliss. Through the Force in this scene, this is where we have Rey getting separated from the group, and Kylo finally tells her that she is Palpatine's granddaughter. The whole scene, Palpatine ordered her death as a child, and then they have their little fight in that scene as well. And we have our issue with Finn and Poe and the rest of the group kind of being in trouble with all those stormtroopers. So that scene also, I think, for the most part, there's not a lot of story necessary elements in that one, except for, of course, the reveal to Rey, the chase of the stormtroopers with Poe and Finn. I think Poe and Finn. I think somebody said it earlier. Poe and Pin. I think somebody said it earlier. They were kind of OP, like they were just blasting through people like nothing, which was a little not great.
But we did get the reveal of the spy.
Yes, we got the reveal of Spy also at
Which
the end.
again was clunky.
General
the way they
Hux
did it.
reveals himself to be a mole and a spy for the Empire, and he helps to free Finn and Poe, not Pin and Foe, and the rest of them. So I think, this scene again for me, most of it was pretty good. I think the action with Finn and Poe and them was a little bit too easy. I think that
Or
of
lazy.
the Rey and Kylo scenes in this movie mostly worked. I think this was another instance where it did. Again, maybe they didn't fit greatly into the overall story, but the way that they played off of each other and the way that they moved the story together was probably the most coherent thing in the entire trilogy, honestly. So I think this scene was cool. I think how they have like that Force conflict is really cool, and they end up destroying Darth Vader's not the helmet, but they end up destroying the pedestal that he's on. So
Did he bring because through transference the Vader mask went from ship to planet, and that's how he realized that she was on the ship in his quarters.
yeah.
So did he pick up the mask or?
No, I think that was just showing that. Oh, that fell.
Yeah.
Oh, she must be in.
There it
my,
is.
Yeah.
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 I think
we
that was a
didn't see
cool
it
moment
again
of realization.
afterwards,
No,
right?
we didn't. We didn't see
the
them
mask after that.
because he had rejects the dark side at some point a little bit later on down
Yeah.
the road. But what about that scene? Do you guys think worked and didn't work? I guess especially the Rey Kylo scene.
I'm just gonna say this. One of the things that they were lamenting about some of the previous films was that the main cast didn't stay together throughout the movie. In this movie, they made it a point, and they told you so. How many times? No, we're gonna do it together. You know, I just, now that you were mentioning that they were all there, they made it an extreme point to let you know that everything that they were going to do, they were going to do together.
Except for
they
Rose.
said it. They said it like a gazillion times in this movie.
And when Ray flies off multiple times.
Yeah, she like runs
Yeah.
away a few times to go like do whatever it is she needs to do. So
It was that thing. The only thing that was of consequence was the fact. I wouldn't even say the spy reveal was of consequence because they revealed that he's a spy. It wasn't. There was no inclination prior to that he was working on that level, and then within 5 minutes of that reveal, he's dead. So that has no consequence, and it doesn't play into anything other than the fact that now they know that Palpatine, and they know his entire plan, which is interesting because when did Hux exactly get involved in the whole Palpatine scheming thing? Did Kylo go around and send a memo to all the directors on the ship saying, "Hey, this is what we got. This is what we're doing"? I don't understand.
we
how
did have that.
all
he
that
did have the
happened-
conference before
Yeah,
that when
they
he
did have
had
the
his
conference
mask
scene.
rebuilt.
But that happened after.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
After what?
That happened after Julio
Yeah, that's
gave
true.
them
Yeah,
the thing.
before
Julio-
this. Before this scene with General Hux.
But
is what I'm saying.
Julio
Julio already
is the
had the
one that had the
information
information
from
from Hux.
Yeah.
That's where they got the information from.
Yeah.
He's the spy.
Yeah.
But the meeting happened afterwards.
Yeah.
So how did Hux know?
No, Hux
Well, that
was already
after-
in on it.
Yeah, but that was
Before
after
the
the
movie
first
started.
scene where Kylo. Remember, Kylo starts the movie. So
Kylo
starts the movie. He returns with that information, and then
But we didn't get the sense that Hux knew about it.
well, the movie
you
was
know?
too
Again,
short. I mean,
No,
there's a lot
See,
of stuff
see,
that they
you
couldn't.
wanna know.
They
You want to know
couldn't.
when Hux did it?
They couldn't include.
Hux became a spy during the missing movie between The Last Jedi
Exactly.
and Rise of Skywalker.
Which probably would have helped.
you know.
and it made it seem like that was the first piece of information that they got.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The first and only information that they got. And all of a sudden, that becomes credible.
Yeah.
You get one piece of information from a person that's supposedly a spy. You don't vet the information. You just take it on its word. Oh, we did get it from a spy.
Right.
Again, maybe I'm nitpicking.
Rogue
but
One
it
does the
doesn't
same
make
thing.
sense.
Rogue One does the same thing. They don't vet the information in there either. Like,
But the difference is they actually went and got it from the place. You know what I'm saying? They
They used
information from
the
the
fulcrum
thing.
system.
Exactly. And again, fulcrum from Rebels is a better way to do the whole spy thing. Because that was a good way they fleshed out. And again, that was more of a long form series, so they had the time to flesh it out. But literally they drop it, hey, I'm a spy.
but
Hey,
the
I'm
only
dead.
information they got was that Palpatine was alive. I mean, it's
No,
not like they got.
no. They didn't. They got that he was alive. They got that he's got people working for them, that he's been working for years, that he has a full armada, that they're all they got the full 9 yards
Yeah,
of
but that's all things that Kylo
everything.
learned before that. That's what I'm saying.
But
like-
they had everything. They had everything.
right,
at
but
that point.
Kylo learned it before that, so it's easily conceivable that he could have passed that information on. That's what I'm saying. This isn't a plot hole. It's just a nitpick.
But why would you give it to Hux? He clearly does not
Yeah,
like
he doesn't
Hux.
like Hux at all.
Just
Why
give it
would
to
you?
somebody? You could have given it to the other guy. I
He
guess.
gave it to the other guy. The other guy is higher than Hux.
Yeah.
The only thing that I find to be a plot hole is that he never had any idea that Hux was the mole with his
And my
ability
thing
to
is,
be
like,
able to
yeah,
search people's
exactly, yeah.
intentions.
People's feelings and intents.
Well, of course, he has to.
He even
to
mentioned
be really
it.
close to them in order to do that.
He even mentioned it in the meeting. He was like, "I feel some hesitation from you, Hux."
Yeah, but he can't get into their mind without being close to them. He can get into their feelings. He can't get into their thoughts because that's something that's revealed when he interrogates people. Remember, Kylo has a power to interrogate people by like basically touching them. So he can't tell
No,
exactly
because
what's
when he
going
was
on.
doing it to Finn, he never physically.
Oh, well, he was
touched
closer
them.
to
I mean,
Poe.
to Poe. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was closer to them.
It's a difference
I
between
mean, it's-
you're in standing in front of him, or he's a couple of chairs
Look,
away.
it's fine. He chose not to do it for whatever misguided reason. Maybe because he's supreme leader. He believes that he already knows all, and he's a crappy
It
supreme
still
leader. But
makes
then
no
again,
sense to
we
me.
also just didn't see Kylo in his supreme leader role. We just saw him in the Kylo Ren role. That's it. So
He
it's
had some
like,
troops with him.
why
That's it.
make him supreme leader if you're not even gonna show that? You know, like they showed another supreme leader. I don't even remember his name, but it was the other guy that took over everything. He essentially acted as supreme leader.
Who, the
Pride?
General Allegiant?
Yeah,
Legion General Pride.
yeah.
Pride. That guy was cool. I
Yeah,
thought
he
that
was
guy was
good.
cool.
But you know what I mean? Like he basically took on the role of like governing the First Order when.
Yeah, basically.
So it's like it's ridiculous to call him supreme leader anything if
Well,
he's not
Well,
going to
but
be.
you know what?
Remember-
He's divvying up duties. So he figures, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going. My task is to find the scavenger. Your task as the General Allegiant is to take care of all these things for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
but that's
he's-
dumb because
he's-
that's what
he's
that's
delegating.
That's
you
what
know?
you should be doing like beforehand.
I
Like,
think a
go
better
find the
way
scavenger.
to have done Hux is for me would have been for him to have physically left the Empire at the beginning because he felt like Kylo was getting close to him to figuring out he was the mole. He leaves. He gives them the information personally. He returns with them to finish this mission and gets killed here. That would have given it more emotional weight because then you would have had Kylo or a Legion General Pride be like, "Oh, you're back, you friggin' rat," and then blast him instead of like, "I'm the mole, I'm dead." That would have given some time for that to build. So the Hux storyline didn't work at all.
Another rush job and stuff. So the only other thing was the reveal of Palpatine, and you're the granddaughter. That was it in that thing, right?
You guys just reminded me now. Was it the First Order or the Final Order?
The Final
What
Order.
an awesome name for
The
the
Final
new
Order.
Empire. Oh my
It's all orders.
It's an awesome.
It's Order
it's an-
66.
It is an awesome
First
name
Order.
for something that we saw
Final Order.
do nothing.
Exactly.
We literally do.
Blew up
like,
one
it's like-
planet. One.
You have like at the end, you have like all these ships, and they're literally just like completely manned by people, and they're all just sitting around. How long were they sitting around?
Where did those people come from?
They were sitting around for 30 years,
Underneath
just sitting on the ship,
underneath the
underneath
ice,
the water. Yeah,
You know.
yeah, exactly.
Where did
Kylo
they get
brought
all
him.
these people?
Kylo brought him. I don't know.
Anyway, let's move on.
So the gang arrives on Jeff Beer, or Kef Beer. I'm losing my mind at this point. Sorry.
Ocean Moon of Endor.
Kef Beer, which is an ocean moon of Endor, and a woman named Jenna basically ends up leading them to the remains of the second Death Star, where Rey finds the Sith holocron.
Thank you, Jose.
Kylo, of course, tracks them down to Kef Beer again, and he destroys the Sith holocron. And Rey and him have what I think was a pretty cool duel. I think there was a pretty good
I
duel
liked
that they
it.
had.
I liked it.
And in this duel,
It's also
eventually-
the last duel.
Yeah, there's no other duels in the
There's
movie.
no
after
other
this.
duels.
This was the ultimate duel, not the penultimate duel.
There's a whole hour left in the film, and in a Star Wars film, there's no other duels in the end of the
Such a
film.
waste.
Listen, in the entire trilogy, there are no lightsaber duels. Basically,
Such a waste.
there
There's
was
one between Kylo and Rey in every one. That's it.
no
Yes, there
because in the second one,
In The Last Jedi, it was just Kylo and Rey against
the Praetorians.
the Praetorian.
That was it.
Yeah. Well, there's one involving them in every movie. They're the only one. Well, they're the only Jedi's left. They're the only Jedi and Sith left who know how to wield a lightsaber.
But there's such a wasted opportunity at the end. Darth,
Hold on.
Let's
The
get to
Emperor-
the end. Let's get to the
okay,
end.
hold
Let's get to the
Hold
end.
on. Are you gonna tell me? I just realized
What?
that there has only been 3 lightsaber duels in the entire trilogy.
Yes,
Finn
sir.
and
Well, that's not a
and
lightsaber.
Kylo.
though.
No,
Well, Finn and Kylo. Oh yeah.
Finn
yeah,
and
yeah.
Kylo. Kylo and
Rey.
Rey, and then Kylo and Rey. That's it.
Is that not a travesty? I mean, seriously.
I guess the forced one, the one that like they did like through the force battle, that one counts also.
Yeah, that was like Hero when they had their mental battle
Oh my god!
beforehand.
But seriously, right? I mean, we're at a point where we're so sophisticated with our choreography and stuff, and that's the best you can do in a trilogy.
In a story that
Or Luke versus Leia.
the main. Oh my god, Luke versus Leia, and
Where there's a big significance made on these lightsabers.
yeah, exactly.
Never use them. I can't understand it. I really don't.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Well, they have their
let's get
final
to the
duel
end.
there.
Let's get to the end.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is a pivotal
No,
scene.
we can't. Yeah, sorry.
This is a pivotal scene, right? Because we have them have their last duel, the last duel of the trilogy, right? And Leia reaches out again through the Force, which I thought was a cool moment.
The moment that distracts Kylo while they're fighting, right?
Distracts Kylo, even though she's trying to help Kylo. So in a way, her using the Force does end up killing Kylo, but it doesn't end up being permanent.
Can I just say one thing? This lightsaber battle is one that shows that Kylo bests Rey in the fight because she's literally on the floor and he's about to deliver the killing blow. If you want to think that he's going to go through with it, then that's the point where he gets distracted by Leia and drops the lightsaber.
And gets impaled by Rey at that point. Very much like a Darth Maul move.
Right, with his lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. So he gets impaled, and as you mentioned earlier, this was probably Leia reaching out. She protects him in some way, and she ends up dying.
Right, because as soon as he's impaled, the next scene is her lifeless hand falling, and the implication is that she's dead at that moment, at the same time that Kylo gets
first the shock registers. She almost looks like she gets stabbed too, remember? At that moment.
No, so the way I remember it, and again, I've seen it a bunch of times, she's there, she's communing with Ben, she's trying to reach out to Ben, then she lies down. And that's the point where he drops the lightsaber. She grabs it midair, ignites it, and stabs her. Yeah, stabs him. And the very next scene is her hand dropping to the side, and then the implication is that that point she's dead. So you can make the case that Rey is the one that killed Leia, and Leia used her essence, her life force, to protect Ben at that moment.
For that moment,
for that one
she
moment.
sacrificed herself for Ben.
Exactly. Yes.
Because if you remember, like Leia had the premonition that if she continued on the Jedi path, that Ben would die.
Right.
So she was there at that moment at the end of her premonition and chose. I think that she chose to, maybe not chose to, but she ended up like inadvertently taking the place of Ben because her premonition did essentially come true.
Twice.
Yeah.
Twice. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We ended up dying no matter what.
Well, if she stayed on the path, right, after she became the master.
And she sensed the fight immediately.
Yeah, she sensed that it was going on.
Yeah. So.
And then the scene. What did you think about? I guess that scene in general, and the way that it advanced the story, the way that Rey ends up sacrificing some of her life force in order to heal Ben Solo. Was this another weird pulling back of a death to you guys?
Actually, for me, this is the part where I started actually enjoying the film. I did like the scene. I agree. You know, I did like the scene. I know Walt didn't like the lightsaber. I know that Walt didn't enjoy the lightsaber battle.
I just think that we could have seen a more technically proficient fight, especially given the fact that Kylo has increased in his knowledge and his obviously because he bested Rey, whereas opposed to in the first movie, she was the one that was the better. And
I liked it.
Given the fact that Rey has undergone this extreme training and stuff, I just thought that we would see a little bit more proficient lightsaber fighting and stuff.
You know why it worked for me, though, the fight itself? Because the fight was one of the only good instances in the movie of show, don't tell. It showed their mental states at that moment. Yeah. Like, Kylo was just sick of this crap. He was like, I'm sick of you. I'm going to kill you. I'm done with this nonsense. And Rey was distracted by everything that was going on around her.
Well, I mean,
learning about Palpatine as her grandfather, and it was a savage freaking fight. Like but remember, that was pretty cool.
He didn't start the fight; she did.
And they had like, well, I mean, whoever started it, I don't think is really the issue. I think still showed the emotion, and at the same time, as somebody who's distracted, a Jedi is not going to be the one to start that fight. The Jedi is going to be the one to defend themselves and try to talk their way out of it. But she was distracted and conflicted at that point, so it made sense.
But she started the fight,
and they did the awesome Force jumps, which you didn't see.
Yeah. That's actually exactly my point when I was explaining before that I feel like at this scene is where you see Kylo kind of be being pulled a little bit more towards the light, and you see Rey pulling towards the dark because Kylo is trying to talk some sense into Rey, even though it's for selfish motivations to like go and like kill Palpatine together, but he's trying to defend himself and trying to convince her to go his way, whereas Rey wants to like fight him out of anger. Now I did like that's the thing. Me personally, this scene works great as a lightsaber duel, because of the anger that they kind of mutually showed, especially Rey towards Kylo being a little bit more defensive and maybe less emotional.
He was calm.
He was less. That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like he was being. This is where you start seeing him go more towards the light, right? And Rey towards the dark. So I like that, and it would have worked great if we had another payoff lightsaber duel, right? Because now we get to see. So in this scene, we see Rey. Let's just say, for the sake of the argument, Rey representing the dark and Kylo representing the light. You know, we get to see what it would be like. Oh, what if Rey does turn to the dark side? What if Ben turns to the light side? Let's see a lightsaber battle there. Okay, it happened, it ended, and the story moved forward. But then we never got to see the conclusion of their character arcs in the lightsaber duel also. And that's where, if you're not going to have another lightsaber duel, then this one had to be stronger.
Right.
But I don't think that they needed to change it. They just needed to add a better final lightsaber duel.
I'm going to say this. The part of this scene that I liked was the very end. And the reason I say that is because the minute that she struck down, and you and I spoke about this before, right? The minute that she struck down Kylo, she almost had an aha moment, right? Because at that point, not only did she realize that she brought him down, I think at that moment she realized what happened with Leia at the same time. And maybe there was a realization at that moment where she's like, okay, you know what? I think I've gone a little too far with with all of this rage stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is the point where it's like, I've just caused the death inadvertently of somebody that I really respect and care about and is my master. You know what I'm saying? And I think at that point, that's when you started her path toward the light and her trying to kind of bring and kind of corral all that rage at that point.
That was her, Luke tossing away his lightsaber in Return of the Jedi.
Right, exactly.
Which I think was handled well. I mean...
Yeah. So I
like
like that
you said,
part.
this is where you guys start to enjoy the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
This is exactly that point, you know.
So let's move on with a little sense of goodwill until it falls apart.
No,
right?
because it
Until
starts
falls
falling apart right after this.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the end now, right? Basically, the third act.
Well, she
Then-
goes to Octo, right? That's the one thing that starts.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where it starts to fall apart for you when she returns to Octo?
No, it's still good there. That's still the second.
Okay, so we still have some goodwill. That's what I'm saying. I want to carry this for a little bit longer. The scene with Luke on Octo. What do you guys think?
I thought it was great.
What about you? What do you think, AJ?
I thought it was well, again, this kind of
None of
goes
it's
back
perfect,
to the fan service thing, but it was good to see Luke be in a more positive role in Rey's development. You know, seeing him act as the Jedi Master that everyone wants him to be, even though like
The full admission that he was wrong in the last Jedi. And that the
At the
lightsaber deserved more
expense of
respect.
that.
Yeah, but he admitted that in the Last Jedi, though.
Yeah.
He did. So he matured in the Last Jedi. This is just a continuation of that story arc.
Which means he shouldn't have had to say it again, I guess, right? Because he already told.
It was
Like, Rey, I already
implied.
told you. I was wrong. Why am I telling you again? Why are you here?
No,
Go do something.
I don't
Save the
think-
universe.
I don't think that he told Rey that he was wrong before. I think the public was told that through Yoda and his conversation that he was wrong. He didn't he never actually had a conclusion with Rey. This is actually
never had that.
This is his actual ending with Rey, right? So I think
had
it
his
made
moment
I
with
think it made
Leia.
yeah, I think it made sense to do this actually with Rey, you know.
yeah, and then the whole sequence with the X-wing too.
That was
That
cool.
was really cool. Yeah.
That was
That was
Yoda all over again.
I
in
love-
Empire Strikes Back.
I love Luke's smirk.
Yeah.
As he's pulling the thing out.
still
you
got
know?
it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
still got it. Don't you worry. And
All right, it's back to a 3 out of 10 for me. Just at this point.
it's going to go back down to 2 or 1, I think.
Can I say
over the
one more
next few
thing?
moments.
Can I backtrack?
What's that?
The scene with Kylo and Han Solo.
Yeah.
I
that's
there
Oh,
was,
that's a really
How do we
important
miss that?
scene.
yes,
Yeah.
there was that.
well, that comes right after this. That comes right after this scene.
No,
No.
that was as he. No, did it?
Yeah, it
happen?
did come after this. It did come right. It came
Yeah,
right
it
after
did.
this.
Okay.
Right after
So
this
then
scene.
I'm not backtracking.
So we all agree that was a pretty good scene
With Luke.
With Luke.
Yeah,
And
I'm
it
good.
was a
I'm okay
solid
with that.
scene. It was a good way to end their story.
Last
sort
time
of,
last
right?
time we see Luke in an extended, we only see
He
him.
doesn't say anything after that except
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
line at the end when they're all like rallying around her.
So we see him only one time in this movie.
He speaks. He speaks
Well,
twice. We
right.
see him twice because we see him at the end.
but this okay, maybe I should say it this way. This is the only time we see him in an extended
scene. In a scene, like a real
Right.
scene.
So
So that's
So-
the last we get of Luke in a big way, and then of course you have the scene. Let's
The Han
talk about
Solo.
Han Solo and Ben Solo at this point.
it was a little jarring, and it was unexpected.
Fan service. That was definitely fan service.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Han's back.
I actually didn't know that Han Solo was going to be there, so that was a little nice
I
surprise
like
there.
that. Yeah.
It didn't make sense at first, but I did love the line that he gave, because that was such a Han Solo line, where at the very end, Kylo is kind of choked up with emotion, and he's like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it, right? And he's looking at him, and he says, "Dad." And Han Solo, he can't.
I don't
get
even
it
think
out.
that he says I. I think he just says
he said
dad,
dad, right.
and then he starts like choking up.
Right,
You see his
he-
lip
exactly.
quiver. Like
He
Adam
can't-
Driver's such a great actor.
Oh, he was awesome.
Give it up
awesome
for Adam
in this
Driver.
scene. Yeah,
Like he
yeah.
really
Real.
kept his
He
character.
was choked up. He
going off the
couldn't
rails.
say
Yes.
it. And then Han Solo, in beautifully typical fashion, says, "I know."
And
that
then-
thing right
yeah.
there was just like, okay, you finally nailed one thing in this movie.
That's more than
Yeah.
one.
And then
we
he
had
throws-
a streak of a few.
But that
so
was
far.
that was really
That was-
truly
yeah,
the
that was
high
very well
point.
done, yeah.
That was the high point of the movie for me,
Mm-hmm.
right there. That one little
Yeah,
line,
yeah, absolutely.
encapsulated everything right there.
I thought it was a great scene, and it was a great callback to the Force Awakens.
And then Kylo throws away his lightsaber, and he looks back, and Han isn't there anymore. But at this point is where I feel like the movie really that the trilogy really became more about
Kylo.
Ben.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's where like I was like, all right, yes, I'm
Well, yeah, we
looking at the
should have been.
rise of Skywalker,
Yeah.
the final Skywalker. This is the point where I'm like, yes, I'm seeing exactly. This is where I started liking it because I'm like, okay, now everything is coming together and making sense.
It's the slow
until
moments.
it doesn't anymore.
It's the slow moments. It's the character moments.
Yes, it's the
that
character
really-
development.
Exactly. That's where, like I said, this was the part of the movie that I really enjoyed because we slowed down and we started getting back to the important thing, which is the characters in the movie, not the spectacles, not the big dashes. It's the characters.
Yeah.
But then we get away from that.
then we have the return to the battle, right? Or excuse me, we have C-3PO getting his memory back, which we all agree was kind of a cop out. I don't know,
Yeah, we can move on. From
and
that.
nobody agreed that was good, right? Just to
No.
confirm,
No.
that was not good. It was nice to have C-3PO dead in quotes, and it would have been cool to see him rediscover these people and maybe have an emotional moment with them where he connects with them. But we don't get that.
Maybe not even. Maybe that becomes like the new comic relief of him trying to like introduce himself to all these people that already know him all the way to the end of the film.
But
Like,
I think,
that would have been cool.
I think it would have been nice though, like to still see the connection, especially between him and R2D2. Even him not remembering who R2D2 was, that would have been a nice moment still because, like we talked about earlier, droids have a bit more of a soul because of the way
Yes,
they're
yes,
raised.
yes,
So I
yes.
think it would have been cool.
You know what?
If we had lost his memory, to have a moment with at least R2D2
I just-
where it's like he doesn't recognize him, but you know that he senses somehow a connection.
Right. I think that it's funny because I just realized that they also retconned the piece of R2D2 because like in the film, C-3PO says like R2D2's backups are they're notoriously unreliable. Yeah, he did still get backed up. It would have been funny if like he couldn't back him up, and then instead of like backing him up, R2D2 is just going along the rest of the movie explaining to him like these little bits. So he's like
That
gaining
would
his
be cool.
memory, but through R2D2's exposition, not through a memory backup. That would have been better. But
Yes.
they did the lazy thing of like, oh, let's just plug into the cloud and back you up. Anyway,
Google
back
Cloud.
to the ending.
So the Resistance
2.5
goes to
out of
Exegol. The Resistance is on their way, and this is when Rey confronts Palpatine, and Palpatine goes through his entire final exposition where he's like, "Kill me, because you shall give me, or you shall give yourself the power of all the Sith." And
Kill me because I'm going to transfer my spirit into you.
which he probably could have done anyway, but
She ended up killing
there's
him.
something about the sacrifice and the anger that is what makes it happen. She killed him in self-defense though, instead of in full-on attack. So
Yeah.
there is a little bit of a precedent there.
No,
It was
killed
self-defense.
him.
She
It
killed
was
him with his own power.
yeah.
But she reversed the power against him.
Yeah, but like
It's
it
still a
was
very
definitely-
Jedi thing.
It was
It doesn't
definitely
matter.
more self-defense than like
it
pulling out the
was-
lightsaber and saying, "I strike you down in anger" before he does anything. Like it's different.
I wouldn't
say
that's
I-
what,
I would say
that's
it's
what
more-
Palpatine
no,
is
I-
going for. He's going for
Right.
like strike me down as a individual who's have no weapon, just like he says in Return of the Jedi.
I agree with that, but I don't think it was self-defense that she killed him.
Yeah, because she
she very clearly aggressively stepped forward with each
end him.
one. It was a more powerful attack going back to him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't self-defense. It was one of these things where it's like, okay, I'm going to cross my things. Oops, by the way, it just happens to bounce back and kill him. No, she purposely put those two lightsabers together, took one step. It was going back to him and took another step, and that's the thing that killed him.
Right.
That was not self-defense. You
I
know?
mean, I don't think that the self-defense like angle
Maybe it's not
like
the right
matters
wording
anyway. Because I
and
think
stuff.
that what it is like she morally ended his life. She didn't
Right.
see. She didn't do it out of vengeance. She did it out of necessity.
Yeah, so you were
You know,
Jose. You were
self-defense.
right.
I wouldn't say
No, it's not
self-defense, right?
self-defense because she was on the attack, but like you have the right idea because.
But I mean, the
she
legal
didn't do it out of-
self-defense,
she
like
didn't
like
do
when
it-
you kill somebody in self-defense.
No. See,
saying,
legal, just to explain legal self-defense, it's I'm being beaten down, and
She
in
was
order
being
to
attacked by lightning.
right, but she could have just like she was just blocking the lightning. She didn't. She could have just like kept blocking it or whatever, absorbing it.
Right, she
you know,
turned
there's
it
different
back
like
against him.
and I don't think that there was anything wrong in how she did it. Again, she just didn't do it out of anger.
Right,
She didn't
and
do it out of vengeance.
that's where I think you're
That's-
absolutely
yeah.
100% right, Jose.
Yeah.
Is that I think what he was trying to get her to do was very similar what he tried to get Luke to do in
I
Return
screwed
of
up
the
your
Jedi.
life. Kill me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what didn't happen. She did kill him, but it wasn't in self-defense because she was in attack mode at that point. The minute that she crossed the two lightsabers, you know, it wasn't. It wasn't.
It was
like,
just out of moral obligation.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, if she
Yeah,
didn't do it out of
moral
hate,
obligation, yeah.
she did it because it had to happen. AJ.
But even before we get to that point, there's still the whole sequence where Ben comes back.
Yeah.
And I think this is why I think that whole last sequence is a wasted opportunity.
Okay.
That point where he draws on the power of the dyad relationship between Ben and Rey. My God, you could have had him go full on episode 3 lightsaber slashing through. Like, come on.
Who?
That would have been a good final
Palpatine.
battle. Yes.
Fighting both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. That would have been something that they should have done instead, before her vicious attack on that poor old man.
I
But
have
okay,
a
wait.
better ending.
Super lightning. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Emperor's super lightning. Before all this happens,
AJ's jaw dropped at that point.
when he used the Force lightning to take down the entire Resistance fleet that was around at that point, that was pretty awesome, right?
yeah.
Like that worked maybe in the scene. What didn't work in this scene specifically for you guys? I know we got to get to that.
Everything else.
Everything else.
Well, listen. I will say this. I found the the Sith temple. The design was very, very well done. It had the Jedi statues. I wish they would focus a little bit more, like what we said before, a little bit more on who those Jedi,
Who
those Sith were.
Yeah, it looked like some of them were definitely from canon, I think. But
There
maybe a
was
rewatch
the
we'll be able to
Sith
see.
audience. We don't know if those are actual Sith or they were Sith.
It looked like they were physical acolytes, though.
So
Because
yeah,
he
they did-
addressed them as such. My
And they
loyal
were-
followers.
and they were chanting.
Yeah, you don't.
But then,
like-
but then, I
Then
don't.
why
I don't
wouldn't
know
they
if it-
step in to like?
Because
Right,
here's
I know.
why I say they're acolytes.
That's a lot of acolytes.
Sidious is one
Yeah.
of the more recent Siths.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm pretty sure if he told that to one of the more ancient Siths, like I'm not saying he would be canon, but let's say he was directing that towards guys like Revan and Nihilus, they're gonna be like, "Who the hell are you? I'm gonna off you."
Wait a minute,
but
hold on.
It could be that those are not physical Siths,
Yeah.
but maybe they're
Like I said,
like
Force
shadows
ghosts.
of
I think they're
Siths.
like Force
you know what I'm
ghosts.
saying? It wasn't clear. The
I have one
but-
thing real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a little nitpick though, but like, they didn't mention him as Darth Sidious at all in the entire film.
No,
Yeah.
they didn't. He was the Emperor. You know, he was
And
Palpatine.
Palpatine.
You know,
Only Luke mentioned it in The Last
Sheev.
Jedi.
Sheev,
Right?
Sheev, yeah,
That's the only time that we heard it in this trilogy.
yeah.
Darth Sidious.
Darth Sidious.
Sidious, yeah. He used. That's the only time he was ever
2 out of
referred to
10.
that outside of this.
This thing is dropping for you. You know.
Continue.
I will say this: I do like the fact that they made Palpatine into like a horror character. You know, he could.
He was undead for sure.
Yeah, and just the shots of him, it looked like a horror movie. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, I gotta ask the question because this one, I think this is a huge question weighing on me. It didn't weigh on me, but I think everybody should help me clarify this because I think we all know. Like he was supposed to be a clone, right? That's
No.
Yeah,
that was
that's
hinted at.
that's the
I
other
don't-
It was
thing.
hinted at by somebody in the movie by
Did
by
he
Dominic
actually-
Dominic
Monaghan's
Monaghan's
character.
character.
But
but you said you read somewhere that's supposed to be him.
that's him.
How do we know that again?
We
Yeah.
don't. That's the thing. You know, and
But you
that
said you
was,
read it somewhere, no?
I
Did you read
read-
somewhere that it's implied that that's him from getting blown up by the Death Star?
Right,
That's his
right.
body that's left over.
But again,
He's like
and
cells.
another
How does that
failing
work?
of the
He's like
movie,
cell. He
they
can
never show.
Regenerate from a single cell.
Yeah,
But no, but
They
I'm
never show
kidding.
him
I'm
coming
kidding.
back.
Never. I would do. I would
Well, they
never
don't
do that.
They never
explain him.
explain
They
how
don't
he
explain
came
how
back.
he came back. They don't explain.
I think he was a clone. I think that was
Well,
also
no,
implied
they
by,
mentioned that because
by Snoke being a clone.
But they mentioned the like
I don't
the
think he was a
dark.
clone,
They no, there was a scene where like one of the off-side characters or whatever.
yeah.
decides.
Dominic Monaghan, the guy from Lost.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So he goes like, oh, it must be the dark sciences.
Yeah,
Cloning.
he goes cloning, dark sciences,
And that's it.
That's it.
That's
But-
that's what
That's
that's
what we're
all that
supposed
we're
to
given.
imply.
But again, from a character that has no idea anything about that, he's just
Right,
he's
exactly.
just
It's not
throwing
coming from a
things
credible
out there.
source.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. I don't even know the guy's name in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Dominic Monaghan.
Right. Exactly. That's it.
Was it Mary Pippin? I can't remember.
One of those guys. But again, you know, one of the critical things, one of the criticisms is Palpatine's back. How did he come back? They never mention it.
They don't
so
mention him.
right
They don't
now,
mention Snoke. They don't mention Leia's Jedi.
Well,
Well,
Snoke they
Snoke,
know.
they said
Power
he was
properly.
a clone.
Yeah, I know, but everything is just done just like, hey, let's do this in one
And
sentence.
Snoke, you see the Snow clones just kind of like, oh man,
Exactly.
what are they gonna do with me? after this?
I happen to think that that's not a clone. That's actually him.
But
it's not
that-
clear.
How does he
And
even?
I think I did read that it was actually him, but again, they didn't mention it in the movie.
Yeah,
So
you
we're
shouldn't have to
left-
read it. You shouldn't have to do research
Exactly.
to understand the movie.
We're left here trying to figure out what he is.
And you even see his death scene in The Last Jedi. It looks like he freaking explodes. Like at
who's
least Darth Sidious. Like at least with Darth Maul, you get the cut, and then his body's relatively intact. But with Darth Sidious, you
you
get
get
a
the-
better sense that he's actually dead.
Yeah,
Because there's that force back where it almost pulls Darth Vader over the edge.
Right,
You know
right,
what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
After he gets thrown down the shaft, But again, a clunky exposition here. They don't explain what happened to him.
Right.
So we're left with these questions. How did he come back? Where was he a clone? Was he not? Is he? And I would tend to think that he's not a clone because he's hooked up to all these life support systems, and his body is mangled beyond belief. So I would tend to think that he was, pulled out somehow from the Death Star. And
Who did that?
Pulled out from the Death Star, like what?
before it blew up?
Oh yeah, I
know
was
what I'm
about to say.
Yeah, I don't.
But then
understand the
again, you
plausibility.
never know because you know what? The way it looked like in Return of the Jedi, that thing looked like it was pulverized, but yet there's the throne room is practically intact.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally got blown to bits. But
I
there's
mean,
pieces
also
of it left.
in A New Hope, didn't the Death Star get completely destroyed? Also,
It should have been
like pulverized.
both of them,
Yeah,
as far as I
both of
know.
them.
How was it mostly intact in the ocean?
Although, if you look at Return of the Jedi, don't you kind of see like a trail coming off the explosions that could be pieces?
Right, and
You know, it's never
that,
confirmed.
But that's a
that doesn't get.
substantial piece.
There was
though.
Yeah.
about half the
But
entire
you see
Death
it
Star
from
in
you
the
see
ocean.
it from the Ewoks' perspective, so you only see like you see like a huge like offshoot of the explosion kind of
Yeah.
coming off. It could be,
But
a
AJ,
system.
No, that looked like a
AJ is
in
nuclear
Star Wars
explosion.
though. That
That
thing got
is-
completely
That, like,
obliterated.
yeah,
right, but
And then
AJ
you take
is
into
right. That
account
is a substantial
the atmospheric
piece.
burning.
That's like
the
that's
power
like the northern
source.
hemisphere.
I mean, this is a space station that blows up planets.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go into the ending. So obviously, like, you know, Rey. We've already spoken about Rey killing
She kills
Darth.
Palpatine,
Darth Sidious,
and then
Sheev,
Ben moment.
aka Palpatine. For those of you guys that didn't realize it.
Well, she dies from the effort, and then
Right,
Ben
but let's go
comes,
into
right?
the actual ending, because how did the ending happen, right? Like, there's one part that we didn't speak about, which is like the battle that's going on overhead, and you know, there's this one thing that I have a huge gripe with, which is like Palpatine. You mentioned is a mastermind that has masterminded from the very beginning of the very first episode. He's masterminded everything. He foresees everything. Yet he still decides to put an antenna on top of the ship that will be the one weakness to destroy everything. This is a more obvious, like, I can see how, like, in the Death Star, like, it was a big thing, like, man, like, this giant thing and just one little blast can destroy it. Well, it's because it was retconned in Rogue One that like it was planned.
weakness that was
It was a
planted.
weakness that was planted by the engineer. This one,
and the
how are they
second
gonna,
one,
you know-
one, it was unfinished, so it was
yeah, the second one was
easily to
unfinished,
get
so it
in
was
there.
understandable.
Yeah.
This one, they put a very obvious antenna. Well, this is how we're going to destroy the communication to the entire fleet, right?
Not even
And-
the communication. The
goes with the
navigation
cheapest
The
system.
contractors.
navigation system.
because they can't, for whatever reason, Exegol has an atmosphere
Yeah.
that you can't fly out
Yeah,
of it
no,
by
that,
yourself.
that I
you know what I'm
understand
saying?
because that's what makes that area
Hidden, right?
hidden. You know, because it's some sort of barrier that hides that area. That's understandable. But the fact that it has to be placed in a very obvious weak point is beyond me. Now,
And there's
the
only
second
two.
thing-
There's only two of them.
but hold on.
One thing, just
Yeah.
one thing, and then I'll let you go. The navigation systems for the spaceships, right, for the Star Destroyers, compromised because of the atmosphere, but yet the Resistance was able to fly through everything, no problem. Continue.
True. Now, here's the thing. Here's what kills me. You have the Resistance that has the plan to destroy this antenna in order to, like, stop the fleet from going anywhere, right? They need a ground assault, which I can understand. They're needing a ground assault because the antenna's on the ground. It's like, we're going to drop the ground assault on the ground so that they can destroy the antenna while the fleet is battling the starships overhead.
But they do have bombers too.
They had bombers?
Yeah, they had
Whatever.
They had
I didn't even realize.
they
But
had the
still, it
B-wings.
doesn't matter because they realize, oh, they're trying to destroy the antenna on the floor. Let's deactivate that one and let's turn on the one on the ship. And what do? Let's transfer the ground assault to a ground assault on the ship instead of just shooting the antenna down. It's an antenna that's very obviously out there.
Space horses, man. Space
But
horses.
it's just, I don't understand how you're going to give me like this entire like plot to put Finn on the ship that he has to like kind of basically go on a suicide mission.
That should have been Poe's moment.
It's just, it should have been Poe's moment.
And Lando's. Poe and Lando should have done something awesome
Yeah,
there.
something like that. But it should have been something more believable. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, they
one
should have
thing. It's
taken it out
one
with
thing.
ships.
It's one thing if they had said, "Oh, the ship's shields are up and we can't attack it with blasters," but they never ever mentioned that.
You know what makes it even more egregious? The fact that after they blow up the antenna, they have the money shot of an X-wing flying right above it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Should
You
be
know, it's
Poe.
like
If-
you're gonna tell me
like
that
you
they
said.
can't come close enough to destroy it,
And they
Why-
fly
and-
right
and-
over it.
Yeah, like they don't even need an entire like like, sure, you can have the entire fleet to distract everyone, but why sacrifice all these people and horses for a ground assault on the ship when you don't need
Forget
to?
the people. It's all about the horses.
It just kills it for me. It makes it makes the whole. Like,
I think J.J.
final
Abrams
scene,
likes mounted animals because they were in Star Trek too.
that's
really likes
cool,
that.
I
but if it
guess.
doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
not
care.
saying that's a justification. I'm just saying that's an observation.
And like I said,
Last
don't-
Jedi
don't-
we had. Well, no, he didn't. Have, that was Ryan Johnson, but still.
Yeah, but don't justify the ground attack with a money shot of an X-wing flying right over the antenna that you couldn't
I
destroy
agree
from
there.
the air.
I agree there. What do you think,
It's
AJ?
just-
Do you agree with that assessment? I think this was
I'm
poorly
not
executed.
gonna lie. I found the whole fleet versus fleet excursion to be completely lackluster.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a fleet yet.
Well,
We'll get to how it became a
okay,
fleet.
Well, what I mean is the whole space.
But then by then it was
Assemble.
over.
What I mean is
Avengers assemble.
the whole dogfight esque excursion. It's just like I get they were trying to. It
wasn't as good as Return of the Jedi.
or make a callback to Return of the Jedi.
It wasn't
but
as good, right?
No,
Not even close.
Because they didn't really do anything. They just survived until Rey did everything, basically.
Basically,
Yeah,
yeah.
like-
Yeah.
I mean,
And
at
Lando
least in
came.
Return of the Jedi, you saw them
They were wrecking stuff in Return of the Jedi.
No, not even that.
The
They were
fleets.
getting creamed at first. Because remember,
But they were doing their own damage too, because you saw them destroy like a couple of Star Destroyers, even though they were getting mainly wrecked.
But not at first. At first, remember the
Yeah,
shield was
'cause-
still up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but
And
they
then-
explained the shield.
And then they
Well,
were
exactly.
and then they were flanked by those Star Destroyers. And then it was just we got to buy more time.
And then that's when Lando said, "Let's move into the ships."
No,
And
no,
he's
no,
like,
hold
that
on.
range will get destroyed.
All right,
And we're
yeah.
like, we'll last a lot longer, except against that Death Star. You know
Yeah,
what
but
I'm
we
saying?
got to talk about how we got Lando in the scene. So this is the biggest gripe that I have with the film.
Avengers assemble.
Okay, so
Go for it, dude.
in this film, this is how basically the film ends, and this is my biggest gripe with the film is that they did extremely lazy writing in the way that they hit the climax. So all is lost. Poe Dameron realizes that like his mission is looking to be like a failure because all his pilot friends are being destroyed, and they're asking him for leadership, and he doesn't know what to do, and he thinks that there's no shot. He thought that people were gonna come and back him up to the rescue, and then what do you get?
I just want to say this.
Yeah.
That was actually for me a good Poe moment because it built on his crisis of leadership in the Last Jedi.
Absolutely.
good.
Everything
Yeah.
surrounding it, I agree with
Right,
you.
no,
Not great.
I absolutely,
Yeah.
I love.
I agree with that.
Poe needed that moment because he needed a moment that converted him from the lone warrior, former drug smuggler, spice runner apparently, to an actual general leader.
Spice runner.
You know what I mean? We needed that moment that made him the person that's gonna take over Leia's place. You know what I mean? So we needed this moment. The way that it played out, in my opinion, was crap. And I'm sorry that I say it like that, but it really was. Because in his earpiece, you hear Lando say, but we have more. So, and when he says that, it cuts to a scene where the entire fleet from like the from the rest of the galaxy that comes to save the day, they come in at light speed, very much akin to the way that the Avengers assembled in Endgame, where Captain America also looked dire and beaten, and in his ear, just like Poe had Lando in his ear, he hears the Falcon say, "On your left," and through there we get like the montage of everyone coming through to save the day, and there's the first part of the Endgame story, and then after that, we go to the Rey and Palpatine final moments. Where Rey has the dual X lightsabers fighting off the lightning from Palpatine. And Palpatine, with a surge, says, "I am the Sith."
Let me do the Thanos part.
Okay.
I am inevitable.
And then you have Rey, in turn, say, "And I am the Jedi."
And I will do Robert Downey Jr. I am Iron Man.
And with that, Rey kills him. And just like in Endgame, Rey dies the way that Tony Stark dies.
And not only that, Palpatine dies the way that Thanos
Exactly.
dies.
So
They
how can
both
you
get
not see the
dusted.
parallels? Like it's just, it's cool and all, but it's just lazy.
Remember, only cool part of that scene, gotta give the positivity, is all the voices, all the Jedi voices.
Yes.
That was dope.
You know
I will
what would
give
have
it
made
that.
you know what would have made that scene cooler?
Actually have them there?
No, not even that. If she started cherry picking from their abilities to fight Palpatine.
Oh, that would be good.
Oh, you mean like if there wasn't an endgame ending in replace? Yeah,
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 like-
absolutely.
You should have officially
you know
made
how
Grey
in-
Jedi a thing in this one and had her and Kylo use whatever power was necessary, as long as it wasn't out of rage.
Yeah,
to
you know,
defeat
like
him.
you know, like how Yoda actually had the ability to like catch
Force lightning. Yeah,
lightning. You could do that. You know, just
you could have a little bit of Mace Windu's swordsmanship. You could have her do a Obi-Wan style flip. You could have her.
I mean, you could have done so many different things,
Do a
but
million
no,
things.
they had to like say, "Hey, you
Dude,
know
why
what?
didn't she ever actually dual wield the lightsabers, man? When she got both lightsabers, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna see that."
No, we didn't see
We
that
didn't
at
see
all.
that. That was a shit. That was
So
a,
this
that was
is,
a
this
missed
is my
opportunity.
thing. They give us the endgame ending pretty much verbatim.
Except then Ben dies, but
You know,
that's the only thing. They pass off the endgame ending
only-
to Ben, and he dies instead.
You know, he dies. He sacrifices himself because he crawls out of the pit that he was sent to, and he uses the Force to bring Rey back from the dead. And I think this is like the actual moment that he redeems himself because he uses his powers for good. Rey sees him and she smiles and remarks Ben with a smile on her face.
'Cause she knows.
And then she kisses him,
Which I don't think was necessary.
which it wasn't necessary. It could have worked, but again, they told the story wrong. Okay, and I'll go into that in a second. But she kisses him. He smiles for the very first time ever on Star Wars screen, and then he passes away as a Force ghost. Now, the reason I feel like the kiss could have worked is because an argument could be made that like when you feel something strong, relationship wise or not, you don't have to have like a story of like how they fell in love and all this and that and the other. If the force is strong enough between the two of them, the love can be implied.
I can definitely get behind that.
However, you cannot have this work when you imply a potential relationship with so many other characters, and then because of the kiss is why there couldn't have been a payoff with the other characters anyway.
Well, there's another way
It's
this doesn't work for me. It's kind of like Luke and Leia ending up being brother and sister after they kissed. Because they're not brother and sister,
shoot,
Rey
and
and
then
Kylo,
she-
but they have a kinship because they both are Skywalkers in
Yeah,
a
they-
sense.
You gotta watch fanboys with us.
Exactly.
gotta-
No, not exactly.
He's got to watch
I
fanboys with
don't
us.
think
Yeah,
the
he's
romance
got to
was-
watch fanboys.
I don't think
No,
the
but
romance-
I think that
I think building to it would have been a mistake also because I don't think they should have made the movie about a romance between the two of
Listen,
them. It should have been
this
about their
kiss-
connection in the Force and not their romantic connection
This
through the
kiss,
Force or otherwise.
this kiss only exists for the Reylo shippers out there. That's the only reason why it's in there.
Yeah.
Well,
Period.
I mean, again, my thing
Period.
is that, like I said, I think this is a story that could have been told, but they told it wrong. You know, I think that there was enough moments in there over the course of the 3 films, because from the very first time that they interacted, like you can see, like obviously it's from a Jedi and Sith kind of relationship. Like you need a teacher, let me teach you. And then in the second film, it was how are we communicating? Even though yes, it was told that it was Snoke that was manipulating and creating that. But for them, you know, it was more like how is it that we're communicating? Is it like this connection that we have? And that connection could have been implied as something more stronger than just the Force. You know what I mean?
And you also had Ben Swolo.
You have Ben Swolo.
You know what I'm
So
saying?
you know what I'm saying? Like there's
was that.
There's plenty there where they could have told the story, but they didn't do it the right way, and that's my issue. That there's plenty of good story here, and they chose not to.
I told you the guys this when we came out of the movie. When that scene happened where she dies and he heals her and then he dies, I was kind of hoping that she was going to heal him and then she would die, and then he was going to heal her, and then she would die, and then I was just like, come on, seriously, guys. The whole thing, it was all clunky to begin with.
Right.
And then he turns into a Force ghost. Why didn't she change into a Force ghost? And now we kind of understand why when he went Force ghost, or at least when he disappeared and became one with the Force, why Leia did it at the same time also, because they still had that connection.
Yeah.
But then why didn't Rey melt away into the Force? You know?
I don't think
She
she was
was
completely
strong
gone.
enough.
I don't think she was
Maybe.
completely dead.
I mean, I think again,
She looked pretty dead.
Again, my thing
Yeah.
is
She
that
died like
And so
pretty much right there.
and so
Right,
did
but-
did
like
Rey.
it was like a moment that he still had a moment. I feel like, you know, because
But-
it seems like the more powerful Jedi fade into the Force right away, but like other ones not necessarily.
So
I
we're
also-
not we're not saying that Rey is pretty powerful.
No. See, here's my thing. I think that like that whole Force Ghost thing is a skill that's learned. You know, maybe she didn't know it because, for example,
Well,
again,
they,
I explained
they
this
said that it was
before.
according to
Right.
the prequels, right? There was
Right.
a
So that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, like
So who taught
Yoda.
Kylo then?
Well,
you know?
when you are in the dark side, you are privy to more power sooner and out of greed. You know what I
gather.
mean?
But we haven't seen a Sith Force ghost at all.
That's what I was really hoping for with this movie.
Yeah.
Well,
We've seen Anakin, but in his
they
light
haven't. They
side.
haven't shown it. They
But
haven't shown
that's
it.
not a power that's like being a Force ghost is not really a Sith.
That's
it's
not
more-
a Sith
it's-
power.
It's, yeah, it's
Exactly.
a Jedi power.
Exactly.
Sith
Right.
needs some sort of physical connection to the real world in order to continue to exist.
Right. Hence the
Well,
Darth
I mean-
Vader helmet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're attached to a thing.
And that's
Yeah,
even
they
that's
have
even
attachment.
Legends canon,
Attachment
right?
is- yeah.
That's like canon no matter where how you slice it. That's even
Yes.
in Legends.
So
yeah.
it was a little weird, but
So-
whatever.
Either way, so that's kind of like the ending of the film. Like, sort of, they all go back and they rejoice.
Celebrate.
They
Chub, chub.
celebrate. We have like no payoff
Chub, chub.
between Finn and Rose, Finn and Jaina, Finn and Rey. We have no payoff between Poe and Rey. No payoff between Poe and what's her name again?
Zora Bliss.
Oh,
That
Sorry,
was only
all his many ladies.
a comedic little scene at the end.
Ho,
We do have
But it's interesting though, now that you mention it, because she asked him to leave with her.
right.
And then at the end, he's like, hey.
Yeah, and she's like,
hubba hubba.
no.
And she's like, nah.
Yeah, exactly.
What
She
happened?
wants him to be with him, but no, not anymore. It's
Yeah,
like,
what
come
happened,
on, man.
You know?
So, you know, and then you see the final scene, which is
Homestead, right?
Rey going to a very familiar place, which is Tatooine, and she, you know, she's taken in the area. I guess she's never been there before, and she's like noticing where like. I guess maybe she feels at home. Maybe that's the look that I'm getting.
I think she felt this,
You know?
her true kinship with Luke.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Her
Right.
because her disconnection from her real family ended in the same place where Luke's began.
Right,
kinda, sorta.
and so-
And she knew enough about him, I think, to understand
Right,
that.
and so then she symbolically buries Luke and Leia together by burying their lightsabers together in the sand using the Force, which was pretty cool how she did that. Which I don't know could be something for a future series where they go on the hunt for their original lightsabers to do some treasure map. And she pulls out this super cool, probably like in my opinion, the coolest looking lightsaber.
I
me.
think that was a cool lightsaber.
That was a cool lightsaber, but a lightsaber that obviously she constructed that glows gold or yellow,
Yeah.
which is really cool, but unexplained in any way whatsoever. And this local, water bottle collector. If you're in New York, you know what I'm talking about. She asks, "Who are you?"
moisture
And,
evaporator.
yeah, she goes like, "Oh, who are you?" And Rey says, "My name is Rey."
Yeah. She says this place hasn't been occupied
Oh, that's
in
right.
a
The
long
place
time.
hasn't been occupied in a
You
long
know?
time. Who are you? She says, Rey. And then she's like, Rey who? And then Rey looks off to the side and you see the Force ghosts of Luke and Leia. But only Luke, old Luke, and then young Leia.
Where's Kylo? where's Anakin? And especially Anakin, because Anakin has a special place. He has a
that's
connection
that's
to that.
Anakin's home.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Where
This is
are
where it
they?
all started.
And where's Kylo? Because Kylo is a Skywalker,
right?
and
but
she
but
has
again,
a connection to him
right,
also.
right. But again, like the representation here is that she's looking at who she sees as her parents, and then she says, "My name is Rey Skywalker." You know, and I know that you don't like it. I personally do like this because again, it tells the story of someone that, like, think of an adopted child or an abandoned child who doesn't know who her real parents are, doesn't know who her legacy is, and wants to know who her family and who her people were, but then is also taught by Luke and especially by Leia that don't let your past define you and be who you want to be. And she chose to take on the name of the people that she aspired to be.
See, I like the way you say it. I don't like the way the movie said it.
Like I said,
You know what I'm
really
saying?
good story told incorrectly.
Yeah, I like because everything that you say is 100% on point, and I can get behind that.
Thank you.
I did not get that from the movie.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
AJ.
And I really liked that scene too. And what you were saying is, like Walt said, it really rings true, and the message behind that is amazing. I only have one itty bitty gripe with it though. This is
Just one?
supposed to be the closeout of the Skywalker saga, and yet they leave us with another Skywalker.
Yeah.
They retconned their whole. Oh God.
So this is what it is. It's a potential opening for another series.
And to your point, AJ, Kathleen Kennedy did mention that this may not be the last time we see Skywalkers.
Yeah.
That's already been retconned since just before the movie came out, right?
You know, but you know what? Like, I can see it being the end of like the Skywalker saga as it is, not the end of the Skywalker name, where they can, you
Like a
know,
cameo.
He's a fake
well, kind of like
Skywalker
add,
anyway.
maybe not cameo, but add
Not a real
right? Like,
Skywalker.
well, I can see, let's say, a future series where
My
like
Skywalker.
it's a completely new series being taught by like some Skywalker people and stuff like that, but that the story isn't about the Skywalker lineage, because this whole saga really is about the Skywalker lineage and who is supposed to bring balance to the Force, right? Which
I
is
have an issue with that also.
I'm still not sure who brought
absolutely,
balance
I
to the Force,
understand
by the way.
I understand your issue. And going back to the end where like we have like the cool scene where all the Jedi Masters of the past speak to
they
Rey
speak out,
and they tell her to rise, and then Luke, I believe, is the one that says bring balance back to the Force. That's, I think, the moment that she became the Skywalker, and that's where it's the whole Rise of Skywalker. Now, she brings balance to the Force in the way that, in one way, yes, it's very off balance because you have the Jedi nowhere and then the Sith all the way up here in power. So obviously they need to kind of be brought back down to earth, or maybe be brought back to zero. You know what I mean? We don't know if there's a potential Sith person out there in the galaxy or whatever. We just know that Palpatine is dead because plausibility states that, or rather, not plausibility, but like it's plausible that there could be a second person because there's always two. You know, and Kylo Ren wasn't necessarily his apprentice.
No.
While Palpatine was in hiding, he didn't have an apprentice that we know of yet. You know what I mean?
could
So
get
it's
bigger
possible.
story.
So it's plausible.
You know, yeah,
and with
I
the
agree with that.
the amount of plot holes in the film, they can totally just like insert this somewhere and it'll fit.
Oh, by
Squeeze
the
it
way, you know.
Okay.
Listen, I'm gonna Eli and just so that everybody know, the reason that you don't hear Eli is because the boy
He's in
is
hiding
tired.
like Palpatine.
Yeah, he went to Tatooine to hide out. No, the boy was tired, so he went to bed. But I will say this. He mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it again for him. The best way to bring balance to the Force was to have Palpatine die, Rey die, Kylo die. There is no imbalance based on the characters that we know because, like you said, a couple of years from now, they can say, oh, by the way,
There
the
should
Emperor wasn't the only guy. There's another guy.
There should only
you
be
know?
Force sensitive people left in the universe, but no Force adept.
Exactly. And so the whole notion of there's balance in the Force, I don't buy one bit because Rey's still around.
I think the smarter play would to be to end it on none of them being around, and the overall message being the Force should not be wielded by anybody
Exactly.
for
Which
these
is
kinds of machinations. Which
is-
is the point of The Last Jedi was kind
Thank
of
you.
to tell.
Exactly.
Well,
Trying to tell.
the other thing too, though.
Well, hold on. Before you get to that, I want to say something about the end because
Yeah.
I didn't like it. You all did. I didn't, and you didn't like it either.
I didn't like it.
I did not like the
I didn't like it
Skywalker
at
thing
all.
because to me that was the ultimate way to spit in the face of The Last Jedi and say, you know what, being a Skywalker matters, and it's the only thing that matters. I would have loved to see her, even if it would have been an awkward moment, to be like, my name's freaking Rey Palpatine, and what? And what? I'm not defined by that. That's the ultimate way to say you're not defined by your name.
This is two fist pounds that I'm giving Jose over
So
here.
for me, that was a very poor way to end it. The Rise of Skywalker should have been the rise of Ben Solo, his return to the light.
The Force,
That's it.
the Force
I
is
did-
not owned by the Skywalkers.
Right, but hold on, but I disagree with that because my thing is that like being a Skywalker by blood isn't what makes you a Skywalker. It's by what they represent. And remember that even to Ben Solo, Harrison Ford, or rather, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his name.
Han
now.
Solo?
Yeah, Han Solo, because I'm freaking dead right
Solo.
now. So Solo, Solo told
My
him,
name is Solo.
damn, now I lost my what I was gonna say. You know,
He was not defined by the name Skywalker.
No. It was something else that he said that kind of like,
What the Han Solo said?
yeah. What did Han Solo tell Ben right before that? Oh no! It's what
specific
like
lines.
it when Han was like when Ben was like it's too late, she's dead, and he goes like yes, but
Yes.
what she represents is not, and that's my whole thing. What being a Skywalker doesn't have to be by blood, and it's not that. It's what they represent, what Luke and Leia represent, and that's why I'm good with it and I enjoy it because it's the whole you take on the mantle of what you want to represent. Not just be okay with like your name, but like that would have been a cool ending. But I like the fact that they show someone becoming who they want to represent versus just being okay with their past.
And again, I like the way you explain it. I didn't get that from the movie.
But again, that's what I'm saying. Like they didn't explain that part. Like I think that like there's a good story in the movie to be told. They just did it wrong.
Exactly.
That's
Because
my
the way
issue.
you explain it, it makes sense. I got none of that from the movie.
Yeah, like for example, if you take away the scene where Leia tells Rey that like don't be afraid of who you are, see, just her saying that would make Rey saying I'm Rey Palpatine make more sense because Leia told her don't be afraid of who you are. You know what I mean? You take away that line, and
Or-
then Rey Skywalker makes more sense.
Or she could have been like Arya, and she could have been no one. She could have been I'm Rey, and I am no one, and I'm just awesome because
Right,
I'm
but
me.
then that doesn't give us a story arc because Rey's whole story arc is her trying to figure out who she was. We
Well, that gives
finally
her
get
power.
that.
She was
We
no one
finally-
before, but now she's still no one. But she's
not
has
no one.
power in
That's
being
the
no
thing,
one.
She's not no one. See, she's trying to figure out who she was the entire time, but she was misguided in how. She was trying to figure out who she was based on her parents and her past. When she realized that who she is isn't her parents or her past, it's who she wants to be in her future and the lessons that she's learned. That's where I feel like this is a better story. It just wasn't told that way.
See, I don't want to work hard to enjoy a movie.
Nobody does.
You know
This
what
is
I'm
why I
saying?
give it a 1.3
Yeah.
out of 10.
Dude, seriously? We got to end this episode because we're going
I
to end
came
up
up
at
from a
0 with
0.5. I
him,
came up from a 0.5.
You know?
0.5 out of 10.
See, my thing is that like I think the acting was great. I think the scenes were beautifully shot. I think the action scenes were awesome. I think every technical point of the film was great. It's just the character development was so bad, the story progression was so bad, and and that in the sense of like editorial decisions of like when and where they place certain scenes is what killed it for me. If you fix up the alignment of the film, you give me a director's cut which takes out certain lines, which places certain reveals in other places of the film, and I easily shoot up to a 7 to 8 out of 10, easy.
Yeah, this wouldn't have even been. I mean, look again. I have to say, and Walt agrees with me. Like, the biggest reason all that happened again is because they were like, "You all hated The Last Jedi. Okay, we're gonna get rid of that." That was why every narrative choice was made the way that it was. Because there were some choices that could have been made, even with the story being built up how it was through the previous two movies. But because they sort of took those narrative threads from the first two movies, but then also decided to say, like, yeah, that happened in the second movie, but it doesn't matter anymore. We don't care about that. That's what ruined a lot of it.
I understand that, but see, I have an issue with that inherently because you've already made the film and you're at the final leg of the race. You cannot decide to change the race from a horse race to a foot race.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know
That's
what I
what
mean?
that's
You
what
can't-
ruined it.
Yeah,
That's what ruined it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the mistake that they made. You know what I mean? That's the biggest issue that they had. Like, you've already made your bed. You know, obviously you're not going to please everyone, but you can't try to then to then fix it. You know what I mean? Instead, like, fix it in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, give us, you know, proper endings to the story arcs that you already started, as opposed to creating brand new story arcs that should take place over 3 films in one film.
Right.
You know, Palpatine introduction should have been done over 3 films. Finn and Jaina or Finn and the Force Finn and the Force should have been done over 3 films. Ray and Kylo's like relationship and the end kiss should have been done properly over 3 films, not in one film.
And you even have Finn in the first movie expressing what the Force is, and Han Solo says that's not how the Force works.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Because that was a joke. It was just a
yeah,
joke.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm gonna say this, and I said it to you guys, and I'm gonna say it again on this podcast. The people that liked Last Jedi is going to hate this movie. The people that dislike Last Jedi is gonna love this movie, and I'm going to put it to you in this fashion. If you go to Rotten Tomato, the score for Last Jedi, the critics is 91%. The audience score is 43%. If you look at the ratings for Rise of Skywalker, the Rotten Tomato score is 57%. The audience score is 86%.
Wow.
There you go.
Quick changes to fix the movie as quick as you can. For me, you don't have Palpatine be a physical force. You make him a force in the background, like the Sith of the past. You make him somebody that's pulling the strings from the afterlife through some, again, connection maybe to the Death Star, like we had theorized, instead of like, I'm here, I'm evil, I'm doing all this stuff. Pull the rug out from under that plot a little bit later in the movie. You don't take out some of the characters that were established in the other movies, like some of the Resistance fighters that were established in The Last Jedi. You have Kylo Ren be super freaking evil from the beginning and lead the First Order as a supreme leader should. You get rid of all that Hux nonsense. You just make him a bad guy. You just have him get killed the way every normal bad guy gets killed in this movie. None of that mole crap. You take out all of the jumps that they made in order to figure out where Palpatine was or where they could confront him.
Which made no
right?
sense because
you take out all of that because that was just the excuse to have more planets in the movie.
Right, exactly. That's all it was.
You sure you still at 6.5? You got to keep going. You got more?
No, that's it.
All right,
I'm
so
gonna
you
say
still
that's
at
it. But that's
6.5
still
out of 10?
That's still kind of the same
Because
movie,
you
but
just
with
said,
one thing
all
moved
right,
around.
if you could change one thing, you just named like 10 things
I
you
didn't
would
say
change.
one thing. I didn't say one thing.
Oh,
I said
okay.
what you would change to make the movie
so
better.
what I would change is if I could change just one story arc thing, it would be Kylo Ren's turn from the dark to the light at what point, right? So in my opinion, one thing that I would change here would kind of satisfy a lot of other points in the movie that I disliked. He gets stabbed by Rey. Rey leaves. He doesn't understand how he's confused at this point and still doesn't know what to do, but he goes to chase after her, still kind of on the dark side. Rey, he arrives at Palpatine and Rey when Rey decides to not kill Palpatine out of vengeance and hate, choosing to be part of the light side. Palpatine then says, but my apprentice has shown to defend me or whatever, and he persuades Kylo to kill Rey. They have one last lightsaber duel, and in that duel, much like how Luke turned Darth, she turns Kylo, and in a moment right before she turns Kylo, that's when he has the dream sequence with Han. Han finishes turning him to the light, and then they take on Palpatine together, at which point Ben, not Rey, ends up being the one that kills Palpatine. And then at that point is where right before he right after he kills Palpatine, Rey comes up. She
Same as Return of the Jedi.
Sort of Return of the Jedi,
Darth
yeah.
Vader,
Sort
right?
of,
It could be exactly the same at that
sort of the
point.
same way. You know what I
You know,
mean?
like,
Very much sort of the same way.
Him finally atoning and her comforting him.
You know, maybe
and him
something in
dying.
the sense, maybe something in the sense where, like, you know, he's facing Palpatine, and then like Rey comes up to try to help Kylo kill Palpatine. Palpatine kills Rey there, and then that's what actually kind of like gives Kylo even more force to like defeat Palpatine, and then he uses the force to bring Rey back to life, and then he dies like as a Force ghost.
He could
And
even-
that would be
He could even beat Palpatine kind of using his ability to get in people's heads, because you figure if he's a ghost, the only way you can affect him is sort of from his mental state.
maybe, or maybe even like have Palpatine kill Kylo Ren, and then as Rey is fighting Palpatine, Kylo Ren as a Force ghost comes back immediately to help her and give, you know, little things like that. But that should have been the real redemption of Kylo Ren. That should have been the real redemption of Kylo Ren, not just the moment that he like showed up to help Rey, but then didn't really help Rey. He showed up to help Rey kill Palpatine, and then he did absolutely
He
nothing.
just gave Palpatine more power.
Yeah, all he did was give Palpatine more power to bring. You know what I mean?
He
Like,
gave Rey her hero moment because he was down the well.
yeah, but see, that's what I'm
You know
saying.
what I'm
Like,
saying?
you end
That's
up
all he
like,
did.
like this is where when I said before that, like, I felt like this was the real rise of the Skywalker by Ben, like coming to the light. I think it should have been done at the end with Kylo. We would have gotten the lightsaber battle at the end with Rey and
they
Kylo,
hinted at it,
you know,
because
yeah.
there was the point where they both faced off, and they had that great shot of both Rey and Kylo right there with the
side by side with the
lightsabers,
lightsaber, and then that's it. That's
Nothing
the last
happened.
time. That's the last time before
They-
the X that we see the
That's your
lightsabers.
point. That's the
You know?
place where you do that right there.
Yes.
You had the money
Yeah.
shot right there.
Okay.
So
It paid off.
again,
So
great story to be told incorrectly.
what about you? And we'll end on AJ. What he thinks should
It's
could have
very,
changed.
it's- the thing you could have changed. You don't make this movie unless you have a showrunner. That's it. Because you know what, you have 3 movies that are trying to become one trilogy. Each movie has nothing to do with each other.
Do a director's cut, but have Ryan Johnson be the director.
Right. Or
Colin
it doesn't
Trevorrow.
matter, you know.
The editor.
Well, Colin Trevorrow was supposed to be the
Yeah.
director on
Yeah,
this
yeah, no, I know,
project.
I know.
He got writer's credit because they used some of his ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You had Chris Terrio write the script. That should have been a red flag right there. Chris Terrio wrote BVS. Chris Terrio wrote Justice League. That should have been a red flag right there. Listen, there is nothing you can do with this to fix it, because you have 3 disparate movies here. One has nothing to do with another, which doesn't have anything to do with another. The way you fix it, from the beginning, you should have had one vision overseeing the whole thing. You bring in your directors, have them work their magic and bring their proclivities to the table, but you're still on this arc. It doesn't seem like they ever had a plan. It's
Yeah.
quite clear they didn't have a plan, because this is what we got out of it. That's how I fixed this. You have it from this. This problem is not just here. This problem started at the very beginning.
AJ,
AJ,
anything that
would,
you think would salvage this film for you?
Well,
Although you were at a 6.5 out of 10, but
like what Jose said, just completely rework Palpatine's angle in this whole thing. To take him out at the very beginning of the movie that severely pissed me off. And I was really looking forward to a lightsaber duel with him. When he fully came back, that was the perfect moment.
Why
for
bring him
that.
back to full health and not have a lightsaber duel?
He took out 3 Jedis by himself in Revenge of the Sith.
Yes,
And
exactly.
he wasn't even anywhere near the level of, I guess, power
He
that
beat
he was
Yoda.
now.
He beat Yoda.
He did.
Come on.
Oh my goodness! So there's that. The other thing that
draw with Yoda.
That was not a draw.
That was a draw.
That was not a draw.
Yoda ran away.
Yoda ran away. Palpatine was searching for Darth after that because he won.
Yoda literally called out to Bail Organa and said,
And
please come pick
he
me
said
up.
he actually
Pick me up,
said
you will.
he said that I failed in my mission.
Picking me up, you
Yoda
will.
got beat.
He did. Now, will he beat Baby Yoda?
Also, realize that Yoda got beat because Palpatine had the high ground.
It's all high ground, man. Even
That's true.
what's the meme I saw recently where they have Darth Vader?
And Luke.
See, I see that Obi-Wan has taught you
taught
well,
yeah.
and he's on the high ground.
Yeah.
That's when Luke's on the high ground after he jumps out of the.
It's always about the high ground.
Oh Lord, I've forgotten this a couple of weeks in a row with the the
The carbonite chamber?
carbonite chamber,
The freezing
Goodness
chamber?
gracious. Yeah, when he jumps out of the carbonite.
So yeah.
Anything
The other
else?
thing that I just now remembered I had a gripe with. You have all of these ships. You see the Ghost? Absolutely no payoff to that. It was just there as filler. Like you put it in there and you do nothing with it.
You know what you could have done also, and I maybe this is a little too visual, and this is maybe a little too much fan service. When they had the voices, maybe you could have seen like a physical representation of all those Jedis that was coming out. Because for the people that don't know, it's just voices, right? You wouldn't be able to discern who they were. You know,
I think it was clear, even if you don't know what the heck's going on, that those were
those
Jedi
are Jedis, but you don't know who they were. Like the average fan has no idea who they were.
But,
They wouldn't have
no,
been
I
able to.
understand,
They
but
wouldn't have been able
that's-
to say, "Oh, that
to
was
me,
Hayden Christensen."
That's okay because
you
if
know?
you're just coming to this movie, there's no way you're going to know anyway.
Yeah,
Only the
you-
super fans going to know that. That's
could
more of
put
an
it-
Easter egg.
but you could
that
put a face
still
to it,
serves
you know?
the plot. You know what I mean? It
put a
still
face
serves the
to it,
plot because
though.
you know it's Jedi. Even if you've never heard of fucking Star Wars before, you know it's Jedi. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
take anything
So-
away from that.
and
scene. I think it was
regarding-
executed well.
Regarding that scene too, while good, I now that I think about it, I really like that cherry picking idea.
Which one?
The cherry picking from
powers?
the powers.
Yeah.
God, that would have been so cool.
There's just
And
so
then-
much more.
Yeah, and I really like the idea you had also, Gabe, where we were actually talking about this earlier, where when Palpatine said, "I am the Sith," immediately an army of Force revenants forms behind him.
Yes.
And then with Rey, "I am the Jedi," a whole slew of Force ghosts.
And you know, Disney has the money to do it. I don't want to hear that like they couldn't do CGI versions of Yoda freaking flying all over the place.
They brought the
I don't-
guys
yeah,
in.
They brought them in. You know what I mean? Like they can do like CGI versions of all of this stuff.
I do have to
So,
say though,
you know,
I think that there would be an unintended consequence to that because then it becomes even more like freaking Endgame. Then you have everybody flying around and attacking each other in the
That's
background.
I guess.
yes.
I
and
don't.
no.
I don't think you should have shown them fighting. I think
Yes
that
and-
you could have shown them, but to have them fight each other, I think would have been too much because then
But
it
I
would have been
don't- no,
chaos.
no.
Also, especially if you want to have a final lightsaber duel between Sidious and Rey and Kylo, and then you have like dozens of Jedi blasting the crap out of each other all in the background. That's way too much going on. And you have the fleet out in
Yes,
space
yes,
blasting
but-
each other to
See, but the
smithereens.
thing is that like I don't think that it would be more like Endgame simply because that would mean that would say that like Endgame is the first time that we've ever seen two mass battles, two factions of war fighting each other.
Lord of
That's
the
not-
Rings, maybe?
yeah.
No, I know that, but
Every
it just
single
adds
fight.
to
Yeah,
the other
exactly.
parts
It's
that
just
you say
how
are the
it's
end.
played out. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I think that they could have like clashed while Rey and Palpatine are fighting for this tug of war.
Right, you don't focus on the
you
Force
don't focus
ghosts.
on them. You just know that's going on until the point that like Palpatine, all in cell mode, decides enough of this, and he does like a really powerful lightning blast that actually sends all the ghosts away. You know, and something happens where Rey needs to like channel the power of, or maybe this is where like
I still
a
don't think it
dead
would work.
Kylo
'Cause
would
then
like come in
conceptually-
and like help her, like put the palm like Goku on Gohan,
Because
put the palm on her shoulder.
conceptually, if you have them fighting behind them, what are they doing? Are they having a lightsaber duel? They don't have bodies. They don't need to do that. Are they fighting with?
Yeah, but it could have been just
with
something
like,
like more.
are they
figurative.
doing
I don't
like
know, no, I-
constipated
no, I
Magneto
think it-
struggles where
no, I
they're
think it
staring
could
at
have
each
been
other
like
with hands
lightsaber-
outstretched?
I think it could have been lightsaber battles because again, it gives us then the lightsaber payoff.
Mm-hmm.
We got 4 at max at most. 4 lightsaber duels over 3 movies.
You don't think like 24 lightsaber battles happening at the same time would be chaotic?
Only if you're looking at all of them at the exact same time. You just need to show that they're there and then focus on a couple instances of the battle.
We did have it already.
It can be done
in Attack of the Clones.
You know, if you can do it,
It wasn't particularly well done there, though.
No.
Listen, if you can do it in Game of Thrones and all these other movies, you can do it in Star Wars. Why is a lightsaber battle that different from a regular sword battle?
Yeah.
Why?
And also,
and
I
did
feel
it in Lord of the Rings when
with the ghosts.
Aragon,
I don't think it fits into Star Wars either, though. I actually really don't like this idea because when a Jedi passes, usually in this, they've put down the weapon. It's almost like a samurai or a ninja saying that eventually the final weapon is to put down your weapon. That's what happens when Jedi die in this. What do they do usually? They put down their weapon, they sacrifice themselves.
That's not necessarily like canon. Like just because we haven't seen.
But I like the idea of it. Well,
you know, besides
haven't seen
the fact,
Force Ghost fight. You mean we haven't seen them fight? Yeah,
we haven't seen them. That doesn't mean just because we haven't seen it doesn't mean that it can't happen.
But in the canon that we've seen, they tend to be more about giving wisdom, passing down wisdom, giving advice, not directly getting involved and saying like, "Here's my lightsaber," and I put it to your side.
Yeah, but when we're talking about like, let's say
Yoda did burn down the tree.
I know, but that's not combat. There's no combat going on there. They don't fight each other.
But there's interaction with the real world, though, is what I'm saying. And this would kind of still be in that realm. Aside from the fact that, if anything, this would still be the Force Ghost Jedi, coming to the defense of Rey. If Sidious calls on the power of all, like, the Sith Force Ghosts to attack Rey, and they go to defend her. You know, like, it's just, it could have been done, and it would have been cooler than what we got. That's all it is. In my opinion.
And then I guess it's just like a closing comment. Just there was all this clunky clutter. Like, we didn't need that many planets. Like, all you had to do was focus on 2, maybe at best 3. There was just simply too much back and forth.
The spy planet was unnecessary, and the first Sith holocron planet was unnecessary. The planet where they took C-3PO to get his mind wiped was necessary to a certain extent because that also established Zori Bliss, and the planet where
the rebels are based.
The rebels are based basically. Well, actually, the planet where.
What about the ice planet where they got the
that wasn't necessary. That planet wasn't necessary to include.
That you mentioned, right?
Yeah, okay. That wasn't necessary to include. And yeah, actually, that's the only planet you really, really had to take out because every other planet ended up serving a purpose because that's where the more conflicts took place. For that planet, the only thing that happened was they found the information on Palpatine. On the planet where they had C-3PO's mind wiped, that's also where they were first confronted by whatever. Yeah, it's
what would have been better, and this would completely fix the beginning. Mm-hmm. Don't have Kylo get the first holocron. Make it only be one holocron. Yeah, and it's a race to get that holocron. Mm-hmm. And that's where they would converge on not Octode. You know, the Death Star, the ocean moon of Endor.
I'll one-up you.
Beer.
Make Kylo never meet Palpatine. Make it a race between Kylo and Rey trying to find Palpatine, and that's where they meet.
Exactly that.
And then, like let Palpatine only be shown at the end game of the freaking movie. This is my issue with the movie and why I don't think it's deserving of even a 5 out of 10. It's because we should not, as fans, say so many things that would have made the movie better. Like, you just can't. I just don't think that you can call it a good movie if we're discussing a million different ways that it would have been good or better, at least. Mm-hmm. That's my issue with. That's why I can't give it more than a 4 even, and why I'm sitting at a 0.7 out of 10.
0.63.
He's gonna get to 0 eventually. You know.
All thoughts have been released.
Yep.
Sort of.
So, guys, what did you think about the movie?
So, on average, this movie is like a 3 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10.
Has anyone else's opinion changed? AJ, Jose?
I still think it was
7 out of 10.
A 6 out of 10. I'll stay with 6 out of 10 because I kind of said that at the beginning.
You were at
for
6.
me,
5.
I'll stay there because
I think it's small
the
choices.
movie still has its redeeming qualities. It does, but
Redeeming qualities.
Not-
I think
okay,
it has
all right,
its
oh, okay.
moments.
Yeah,
I would
that's-
say redeeming.
Okay, that's-
redeeming is to say that like it redeemed itself to be a good movie.
okay. What I meant to
Whoa.
convey, what
Yeah,
I
he still
meant
thinks it's a
to
passing grade. He thinks it's a
convey
good movie.
was
Redeeming.
that it had its high points. So, given that, I'll stay where I am.
Where were you again?
6.5.
6.5. And you were 6.
I'll go with 6.
Okay.
All right.
Then we got a 0.7 and a 3.
3. It's gonna. I was actually.
And
4.
Eli was a
It's
2.
now a 3.
Eli was a 2.
It's. I can't.
So
Yeah.
overall, we didn't like the movie, people.
you guys liked it.
No,
It
you
would
guys
have been
liked it.
overall, all of us, all together.
3 out of the 5 of us
It's
didn't
it's
like
a
the
low
film.
grade.
Yeah.
It's a low grade.
And that.
It,
He
okay,
gave it passing.
So,
I gave it barely failing, and you guys like
so
barely even registered it as a movie.
Let me-
Overall, it fails.
Well, I mean, Walt basically said that you know how you fix this movie, you don't make it.
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you this
you
question.
should be a 0.
You guys you guys gave it better grades than me and Wolfie did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this is a movie worthy to end the Skywalker saga?
By no means, I'm sorry.
No, as
By
an
no
ending,
means.
it's not effective.
Okay, that's all you need to know at that point.
As a standalone
It's a
film, I
movie.
enjoyed it. As an ending,
It's an ending. It's not the ending that
so
we
that's
deserve.
actually what I was saying. That
It doesn't
like, by
even really
itself, I
feel
can
like an
enjoy it.
ending, too. It doesn't even really feel like an ending either.
It doesn't
That's
feel
what I'm
like a
saying,
true
yeah.
ending because it didn't end necessarily the Star Wars, universe.
I hate to say it, I
Skywalker.
hated that last shot. I really hated that last shot. That last shot bastardized New Hope.
I don't
looking at
think
the
so. I don't think so.
I hated that shot.
I don't think so because no. You want to know why?
cheapen
No.
the memory of Luke.
No,
Luke,
you
because
wanna
that was
why?
one of the
Oh, that's
most
the poetry of
powerful-
Star Wars, man.
Oh,
like
no, I
seeing
hated
Star
that.
Destroyers at certain moments
But
and
it's
from
not
certain
even
angles and
that.
seeing
hated
twin
that.
suns.
I really did
You
not
want to
like
know
it.
why you can't hate it? It's because the thing is that, like, at the end of the day, life goes on, and all it is like generation after generation, there's gonna be someone looking at that horizon, and in this case, it's now Rey. 100 years after Rey, it's gonna be someone else, and that's kind of the point.
And it was that little kid in the Last Jedi.
See, but my thing is when you saw New Hope, that was such a powerful moment because that was Luke looking at the stars and wishing he was somewhere else, and that was his despair that he was stuck doing
Moisture
the moisture farms. You know what I'm saying? That was a powerful moment. That was him looking up at the stars and dreaming of what he could have been. What was the point of that ending?
The
Where
fulfillment.
did you get that?
The fulfillment of it.
that.
No, I'm sorry.
Even if you didn't like how it got there, that was still a proper way to end it in terms of the shot.
Absolutely,
I
it's
don't
the most memorable shot of the entire saga. Period.
with
It's-
BB-8.
No, just in general, like the two suns setting and stuff. Like that's I think probably out of all the scenes in all of Star Wars, that's the most memorable.
No, it's an iconic
Yeah,
moment.
exactly. So
I didn't
why
feel
not
that this
fill it?
movie deserved that.
Well, this movie may not have deserved it, but it is the ending that, like, as a fan, we should have.
But if the movie was better, then that would have been a perfect way to end it. I think you're
Yeah, that's what I'm
judging the
saying.
moment on the
Yeah,
rest
that's-
of the
that's-
movie.
But how
the
else do you
moment was
judge
good.
it? How else do you judge it? If you have a movie that's subpar, you can't say, "Oh, well, the ending was that last shot was great."
Well,
it didn't.
you can't say it was terrible
earn-
either.
It didn't earn that shot. In my mind,
I think
it didn't
that's
earn
just
that
from like an
shot.
idealistic point of view because it's not like there was a shot. There wasn't anything about the shot that ruined the shot itself, right? You know what I mean? It's
I'm not
like,
talking technical.
No,
terms,
I
you
I know,
what
but I'm saying like there wasn't no like line that she said that ruined the shot or whatever that killed it. It was just the shot. So whether the film was good or bad, it's still the shot that should have. There couldn't have been any other shot to end it. Whether it was a good film or a bad film, there couldn't have been another shot to end it. Period.
not deserve that shot.
And I think with that, we will end our shot.
All right. Anyway, peoples, we want to thank you for joining us. Those of you on who have joined us on our new podcast, Get Geek News. Thanks for joining us in this robust discussion about Rise of Skywalker and our final opinions on the end of the Skywalker saga. Remember, guys, in order for this podcast to grow, if you want to hear more of our opinions, rate and share us on iTunes. We would really appreciate it. We want to turn this into something that's less of a podcast and more of a community. So we want your questions. We want your topics. We want your opinions on how we can get better. We want your opinions on really anything. We want to engage you guys as a community, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's directly through the podcast and the questions we answer. So we really welcome that. We want this to be a community more than anything of awesome geeks. So anyway, that said, again, rate and share us on iTunes. We would really appreciate it. And I just want to say again, thank you for joining us for Rise of Skywalker review. I am Jose.
I'm Wolfie. I really don't think that that's going to be the last you hear of our opinions of Rise of Skywalker. At least not mine.
We have to end the episode.
We could fill another trilogy with our opinions on that, I guess.
Absolutely. So I'm just saying good night for now, or goodbye, rather.
I'll be back.
Let me pass it on to AJ before I go anything lower than a 0.4 out of 10.
0.4.
0.4, that's where I landed it, right?
I thought you were at 0.3, wasn't he?
I thought it was 0.7.
Oh, yeah, it was 0.7. I'm at 0.4 now.
It doesn't matter anymore. It's a zero.
Let's stop.
It's
It's not a zero. I like the Han Solo part and the Rey Skywalker part. That's like 10 seconds out of the film. So go on, AJ.
Yeah, this is AJ bidding you all a good night.
He liked the part where the crawl started. That was it. You know?
Trailers were awesome. They were go watch the movie for the trailers.
Don't get me started on the trailers. We got to end this thing. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm gonna end this. This is it. This is Walt. May the force be with you. I don't even know. Goodbye.
See you around, guys.
We'll be back with more Star Wars. Peace.
Later.